It all happened on November 16th, 2019, prom night. I had just recently got my driver's license a week before and wanted to impress my prom date, Jessica. I decided to take her to a drive-in movie after the dance. It was a great opportunity for us to be alone and for me to make a move. I had bought tickets to a drive-in theater I found on Google. For some reason, it didn't have any reviews yet. The pictures on Google made it look really nice though. It was only about a 20-minute drive from the school, so it seemed like a great option. But I was wrong. Prom ended at 11, and the movie started at 11:30, so we had plenty of time to make it. We drove straight there after the dance. When we arrived, I noticed it didn't look anything like the pictures I saw online. I figured it was because it was dark out, and it probably looked different at night. But then I realized there was only one other car parked there. It was around 11:15 when we arrived, so I figured most of the people were still on their way. Jessica and I ended up making out during that 15 minutes before the movie, which was awesome, until we quickly realized that no one else had shown up for the movie. I checked the time, 11:35. The movie was supposed to start at 11:30, but nothing was playing, just a blank screen. Right as I was pulling out my phone to double-check the movie time, I heard a car door slam shut behind us. I quickly glanced in my rearview mirror. I saw a man staring right at me in the mirror, walking directly towards the car. Hanging from his hand was a thick metal bat. He was dressed in all black and was wearing a ski mask. As I scrambled to turn the car on, I saw him starting to sprint towards the car. I quickly pulled away just in time, before possibly getting mugged. Jessica asked, "What the hell was that all about?" "No idea," I replied nervously. I checked my rearview mirror again to find him jumping in his car. He took off right behind us and followed us out. Once we got on the main road, I stepped on it. I was going about 80 in a 45, but I didn't care. I wanted to pull away from this freak, but he sped up and got right behind us. About half a mile down the road, there were 3 cop cars parked on the shoulder with their lights on. I quickly slammed on the brakes and pulled up next to the cops. As I got out of my car, I saw the guy abruptly make a U-turn and floor it in the opposite direction. I ran over to the cops and told them what had just happened. The officer with the Dodge Charger took off after the guy to catch him. I didn't find out until later that night on the news that it had turned into a high-speed chase, but they finally got him to pull over and arrested him. Apparently, this guy was already wanted for kidnapping, but had gotten away last time. Also, the police found out that he created a fake Google listing for the drive-in movie to lure people into his trap. Jessica and I were both extremely shaken afterwards. From now on, I told myself I'm never going to trust a Google listing that doesn't have reviews, and I suggest you do the same. On prom night my senior year, one of the most horrific and unforgettable things happened to me. About 2 weeks before prom, most of my friends began asking girls to the dance. Most of them were pretty successful at finding themselves a cute date, except for one, my friend Brian. Brian was a fairly introverted kid and didn't quite have the looks women are attracted to. He was a little overweight, wore glasses, and had a pretty bad case of acne. But he was pretty easy to get along with. I ended up making friends with him during my senior year. About a week before prom, I saw Brian waiting outside of the school while everyone was headed home for the day. He was holding up a sign that read, "Brittany, will you go to prom with me?" As soon as I saw this, I knew he was going to get rejected. Brittany was one of the hottest cheerleaders at school, so I don't blame him for giving it a shot. But Brian was definitely not her type. I was interested in seeing what would happen, so I waited there until Brittany walked out with her friends. It was obvious to see how nervous Brian was. He looked completely out of his element, but I give him respect for going out of his comfort zone. About 5 minutes later, Brittany and her friends walked out. Right after Brittany saw Brian with the sign, she immediately looked at her friends. They began laughing hysterically while everyone was watching, and then everyone began joining in. There must have been around 100 students laughing at Brian as he just stood there. He quickly realized his rejection and bolted out of there. I could totally understand how he felt, but it did not justify what he did on prom night the week after. The next week was prom night. My girlfriend Brianna and I had just finished dancing. We decided to walk to the football field behind the school where it was more secluded. At the time, I had only been dating Brianna for about a month, and we hadn't even made out yet, so I wanted to change that. We went up onto the bleachers to find a good spot for some alone time. As we were walking up the bleachers, I heard someone running in the distance. The sound came from on the field. I quickly turned my head to check it, but didn't see anything. Brianna even told me that she heard it, so I knew I wasn't imagining it. We looked on the field for a few minutes to see if anyone was there, but did not see a soul in sight. We went back up the bleachers and ended up making out for a while. I thought to myself, finally, after a month of wimping out, I finally mustered up enough courage to make out with her. I was on cloud 9 with her when something caught the corner of my eye. It appeared to be someone sitting down at the bottom corner of the bleachers all alone. I told Brianna that I wanted to see who it was, to make sure everything was okay. As I walked down, I started to recognize the side of the person's face. It was Brian, just sitting there all alone with his head down. This had me really worried about what he was doing out so late by himself. It was around 12:30 a.m. As I walked closer to him, I noticed he was holding something to his arm. I couldn't quite make out what was going on, so I slowly walked up behind him so that he wouldn't hear me. I was about 10 rows back in the bleachers peeking over his shoulder when I clearly saw what was happening. Absolutely horrific. He was holding a kitchen knife against his arm. Blood was streaming down his arm and hand. "Brian, stop!" I yelled out. Startled, Brian turned around and said, "Don't worry, it's almost over. No one will notice when I'm gone anyways." I quickly jumped on him and knocked the knife out of his hand. I yelled up to Brianna, "We need to go to the hospital, now!" I picked him up and carried him to my truck about 100 yards away. I was afraid he would bleed out, so I ran as fast as I possibly could. I floored it all the way to the hospital about 5 minutes from the school. Brianna tried to stop the bleeding, but it was useless. He passed out on the way. There was blood everywhere. When we arrived, the EMTs grabbed him and began treating the wound immediately, but it was too late. The cuts were too deep, and he had lost too much blood. They kept checking his pulse periodically. After about 3 minutes, they pronounced him dead right in front of my eyes. This experience has scarred Brianna and I till this very day. It taught me that some people are very good at hiding deep depression in front of others. No one at school had any idea how bad it was, and neither did Brian's parents. The year was 2017. I was in my junior year of high school and had just gotten into a relationship with my girlfriend, Maddie. She seemed like an amazing girl from first impression, but going to prom night with her that year completely changed my mind. She turned out to be someone entirely different. The crazy part is that there were no red flags prior to what happened. Maddie and I ended up having an amazing dinner that night in downtown Denver. From there, we drove straight back to the school for the dance. On the drive back, I noticed Maddie kept turning her head to look in the back seat of my car. It got to the point where it was uncomfortable. The only thing I had back there was my laptop, so I didn't think much about it at the time. Then later that night after the dance, I went to drop her off back at her house. Something about her seemed different now, but I couldn't quite put a finger on it. It wasn't until I got back to my house when I quickly realized both my wallet and laptop were missing from my car. I immediately thought to myself, that bitch! I knew right away she had something to do with it, because of how she kept looking at my laptop on the back seat earlier that night. I tried calling her right away, but it went right to voicemail. This would never happen when I tried calling her before. She would almost always answer. I tried 5 more times, but every one of them went straight to voicemail. At the time, I was using that laptop to run my online business, so I had a bunch of confidential information on there. I immediately assumed the worst and called the local police department. I told them the entire story of what happened that night, and that someone had stolen my wallet and laptop out of my car while I was at prom. I stressed to the operator that I had all my private business information on my laptop, and that my ATM card for my bank accounts was in my wallet. The operator told me not to worry, and that they would be sure to get a warrant to search Maddie's house for the items. Sure enough, I was dead on. The cops found both my laptop and wallet hidden away in her closet. She had already hacked her way into my laptop somehow, and tried multiple attempts at a $5,000 wire transfer from my bank account to hers. My bank thankfully flagged the transaction, and she ended up going to court for what she did. I never found out exactly what happened to her after that, but this was by far one of the most sketchy relationships I could have ever possibly had.
Right now I'm standing in a pool of blood. A woman that was wearing a yellow jumpsuit is dead in front of me. I shot her because I was sure that she was the imposter. There are only 3 of us still alive. I don't know where we are, only the story of how we got here. I'm going to try and tell it to you now, before it's too late. Before you wind up in this deadly game the same way we did. Playing online games is what helped me get through this pandemic, and the recent sensation of Among Us was my personal go-to for a release from the frantic crises of everyday life. Eventually, I started to play it on a daily basis and joined servers online to get involved in competitions. It was amazing to me how many people were enjoying this game and getting into it. I was meeting people from around the world. As much as I like doing stuff through a computer screen, it doesn't compare to real life though, which I occasionally expressed in chat. I guess that's where this whole thing started. One user, Dr. Alvin348, sent me a DM. I don't remember the exact wording, but he told me that him and a few others were trying to put together a competition that was a little higher stakes, as he called it. If I was interested, all I had to do was click the link. It seemed like harmless fun, so I clicked on the link. I was surprised to see it take me to what looked like a deep website. I thought about clicking away until I saw a few familiar profiles from my usual Among Us server. Then Dr. Alvin348 explained why we were there. All of you have shown exceptional skills online. This game is something that has really brought us together, so I wanted to take it to the next level. I propose that we stage a game of Among Us in real life, just between us, and we all donate to a pool where we can win real money. Survivor takes all. He made an opening bid of offering $100 to the pot. Others kind of felt the pressure to say yes. One user, though, Hannah Banner 23, had a few questions. How is this whole thing going to work? We don't even live anywhere near each other, she pointed out. Dr. Alvin seemed to have an answer for everything. He encouraged all of us to consider this as an investment. He could handle everyone's travel expenses. He assured us it would be fine. As they might say in the game, I had no reason to think he was sus. I gave in when others signed up for the game. I figured it was better than being stuck at home. I boarded a plane in the early morning. I messaged the game master and told him I was preparing to leave. He reminded me that someone would be picking me up from the airport, and I heard from a few other players who also said they were on their way to the game location. Supposedly, we were going to meet in Jersey or around that area. I landed and got in a cab. A driver had a placard with my name on it. Inside the cab, on the seat, was a white jumpsuit, identical to the kind you see in the game. Mr. Alvin would like you to put that on, the driver told me. He refused to even drive away until I agreed, and so I zipped up. When the zipper got to the top, I heard a click. The next thing I remember, I was in a dark room. I figure I must have been drugged, or the suit had some kind of sleeping chemicals in it. All I knew for sure was that all of my personal belongings had been taken, and it seemed that I couldn't get out of the suit. I tried pulling on the zipper, but it seemed to be locked in place. I don't normally panic, but I was starting to feel like this was from a Saw movie rather than a fun game. The intercom came to life a few seconds after I woke and announced that the game would begin in a few moments. The game master had supplied us with 2 guns and a knife, and quickly explained how that our goal was to find the imposter among us in the allotted time, or die trying. An alarm went off and the door to my room opened as I moved out to a central hub area. Several other guests arrived from different corridors, all seemingly as confused as I was, and apparently also being forced to wear these ridiculous costumes. "Alvin, this is going too far," the man in the red suit said. The intercom didn't respond, so I figured we had time to work out a plan. "Does anyone remember seeing any vents or crawl spaces out of here?" a woman in a green suit asked. All of us agreed that by working together, we could avoid any problems. After all, it seemed apparent at the time that the game master was the one pulling our strings. The red suit and turquoise agreed to scout the underground lair for ways out as the rest of us waited. A short time later, only the red suit returned. He was covered in what looked like brain splatter over his suit. "He tried to turn his gun on me. It was self-defense," he shouted as he rushed towards us. We urged him to calm down, and we all went to check out the crime scene. As we got to the turquoise suit, and I turned him over, I felt an overwhelming sense of doom swallowing me. It was apparently the man that had brought us here, Dr. Alvin. I recognized his face as matching the profiles online. So wait, if he is dead, then who was running the game? Yellow Suit asked. All of us began to look at each other suspiciously, but Green Suit insisted there was no need to panic. He probably just wanted to be part of the sick fun. What a psycho. "All we need to do is focus on getting out of here," Green said. We were all in agreement with that. So it was decided that we would split up and search the murky corridors. The place was deafeningly silent. Each step I took down a dark hallway caused a loud echo. making it a tad disorienting to determine if there was any threat nearby. Occasionally, I saw the red blink of a camera and realized that maybe green was wrong. Maybe someone was still watching us. Eventually, I came back to the main hub and checked the gear that the others had brought with them. Conveniently, no one had been allowed a cell phone. Chances for escape seemed less likely the more time passed, and eventually green, red, and blue returned to the main room. "Hey, where's yellow?" I asked. None of them seemed to know, and I cursed to myself. "Maybe they found a way out?" Red suggested. "Or they are in trouble," I muttered. We split up again and I called out, trying to get a response. The tight, cramped tunnels felt especially cramped the more I weaved through them. Claustrophobic feelings settled in quickly. Then I rounded a corner and saw yellow holding a knife, standing over blue. Blue was barely breathing, choking on his own blood when I saw him. I acted on instinct alone and grabbed one of the knives that I had been given, heading straight toward yellow. Just as I was about to hit her, she turned around and I saw a look of shock in her eyes. The knife pierced straight through her jumpsuit. "What the f?" she gasped as she tried to stab me back. I don't really know what came over me. Call it a survival instinct, I guess. But I blindly started swinging my blade. Eventually, it severed her vocal cords and she couldn't seem to stand properly. She collapsed to the ground motionless next to Blue. I stood there, trying to even fathom what I had just done. Red and Green arrived from the sounds of the screams. "What the hell did you do, man?" Green snarled as he checked them both for vitals. She killed Blue. She was the imposter," I said. It felt almost silly to use in-game jargon for something so serious, but I couldn't think of any other way to explain what had just happened. Green shook his head. "No. Blue here was choking on his oxygen cord. I think she was trying to cut it loose," he remarked. "What? No, that can't be right," I said. I dropped my own weapon, shocked that I hadn't seen it sooner. But another wave of dread washed over me as I realized there was no way Blue could have accidentally gotten his cord wrapped around his neck. "Someone else sabotaged this, wanted me to think she was an enemy," I said. Red and Green shared a wary gaze, and then Red commented, "I think you are the imposter, White. You killed, choked Blue, and killed Yellow." "For all we know, you could be the imposter," I snapped back. "How so?" asked Red. "What do you mean, how so? You walked away with Turquoise and he ended up dead. How do you even explain that?" I replied. "Let's forget about all this drama. You sound sincere and believable. How about let's all just work together? We can't beat this sick game by ourselves," Red said. I stepped away, too paranoid to trust them, and insisted on going alone from here on out. I knew one of them had to be the imposter. The two eventually conceded to my request, and I rushed down the opposite corridor. This place is a labyrinth. It's got to be underground or maybe deep ocean. Heck, it could even be that we really were shot into space, and I wouldn't know. I've weaved through every nook and cranny, only occasionally running into Red or Green, and then of course the other bodies. It's obvious we aren't getting out of here. The three of us met up in the main hub about 5 hours later, exhausted, tired, and defeated. But there was one bit of good news. Red said that he found a phone. "I don't know if someone dropped it or left it for us to find," he said, showing us. We tried to call 911, but that didn't work. So instead, we have been browsing the internet, searching for some way that maybe we can get out of here. But it feels like we can't sleep either, because I truly don't know for sure if I can trust these people. They haven't done anything yet to each other, but that could also be because they are waiting for an opening. I feel trapped. I think that it's likely we won't be alive by morning, or at least, 2 of us won't. All I can think to do now is warn others, to steer clear of advertisements for real games like this. It isn't worth it. And be wary of those you call friends. You never know when there might be a psycho among you. Thanks for watching. You can watch another scary animation here. Also, don't forget to subscribe and to hit that notification bell to stay tuned for future videos.
Tucked nicely.
It's here. I don't know where, I don't know how, but it's here. It's inside the house. I've done f***ing everything. I've called Todd, I've called Howard, I even called a goddamn exorcist. None of them believed me. None of them so much as offered to help. Now it's Halloween and it's stronger than ever. I can feel it moving through the house, like a great darkness suffocating the light from everything. It's already taken my business partners, John and Erica. It's already taken so many others. I'm upstairs in my bedroom closet. I've been here for 3 hours now, and I'll be here for 3 more if that's what it takes. I don't know if the thing hates the sun, but it never bothered me during the day. Only at night. Always at night. There's a creak and a groan outside. On the steps, and I feel the house tremble as something monstrous moves through it. My breath hitches in my chest, and I remind myself to be still, to be quiet. I just need to make it until sunrise. Just a little longer. Then, the voice follows. Low, raspy, and inhuman.
So many lives, and so little time.
It's singing a song, but the tune is broken. Each word scrapes along my ears like a razor blade, cutting deep into my mind and pulling back memories. It sang before it took John. It was only a single word then.
Coming.
It had hummed, and we had all just thought we were hearing things. Now John's everywhere. There are pieces of him littered throughout the house, fingers and toes, and intestines and eyes. I weep silently into my hands, and I can smell John's blood on them. I can hear his screams. I can taste my cowardice for not doing more to help him, for not even trying.
Oh, how good it'll feel to finally go.
The thing sings. I wince in pain at every word. God damn, it hurts to listen to it. Warmth flows from my ears, and I realize they're bleeding.
Just one more, and then the song ends.
I gasp in agony as more memories tear themselves from my mind. Erica. Her and I had separated in the panic of John's death. I had run up here, trying to call the police, but my phone was haywire. That's when I heard it come for her in the basement. The house creaked and groaned with the creature's every step.
One more will do.
It had sung, descending the basement stairs.
One more makes two.
I only heard her scream for a moment, and then it faded to silence. Until the thing laughed. Guttural and monstrous. It echoed throughout the house, shaking the foundations and rattling the old wooden frame. It laughed and it laughed.
All that we need, all that we eat, all hail the coming of All Hallows Eve.
Now it's moving toward me. It's getting closer. I can feel its every step, its every movement. It passes through the house with tremors of violence.
Just one more,
It sings again.
and then the song ends.
It's outside the bedroom now, and my ears are bleeding badly. I can't take it anymore. I can't take the sound. I clamp my eyes shut, trying to ignore the agony of its voice, trying to ignore the panic rioting in my body. The floorboards creak outside the closet, and I smell something rotten, vile, and grotesque. Something dead. There's a low groan as the closet door slides open.
Looky, looky.
It sings, discordant and tuneless.
Wouldn't you like to see something spooky?
I don't look. Agony tears through my eyes. They're being split open from the inside out, and blood is pouring from my head in a river down my jaw. I whimper, and something leans close to me. The smell of rot is nearly unbearable now, and I gag and retch, but I refuse to open my eyes. I can't. If I see it, then it's real. If I see it, then I die. Something grips my wrist, something cold and damp and loose with flesh. It pulls me from the closet, and I howl in terror and fear. It's taking me somewhere. Please, I sputter, please don't. My leg creaks as it drags me down the steps, and I scream. My eyes are clamped shut, but I feel myself moving through pieces of John as the creature pulls me through the house. Finally, it stops. I'm hyperventilating now, my chest rising and falling in rapid succession. No, 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 I mutter again and again.
Yes.
It says, and this time it isn't singing. It tosses me by my arm, and I feel my shoulder snap backwards out of its socket. I tumble down the old wooden stairs, my head smashing against the steps, my wrist snapping in half as I finally collide against the landing. I groan, tears and blood streaming down my face.
Looky, looky.
It sings, though its voice is now guttural and horrible. It grabs me by the back of my hair, pulls my head up, and reaches its fingers down to my eyelids.
Would you like to see something spooky?
It pulls them open, and I see our studio. Our camera is pointing toward the cages, 10 of them, each filled with pieces of the children, each a tapestry. The light in the basement is dim, but I can see Sally's witch hat, still tied to her head. I can see Michael's werewolf paw, still on his dismembered hand. I lick my lips. There, in the back, is Yonda's Cinderella costume, the glass slipper still upon one of her feet. The thing throws me forward, and I crash against the steel bars of the cage. When I look up in a daze, I see Erica's corpse. My dear filmmaker, mutilated and cut into pieces. Her eyes are missing, and her hand is stuffed halfway down her throat. I lean forward and vomit, only then realizing that I'm lying in a pool of her blood.
So many lives, and so little time.
Creature sings. I hear the click of a button being pressed and see a red light hovering in the darkness. The camera is recording.
Looky.
Please, I rasp. The house creaks and groans as it steps forward, and my body scrambles backward on its own accord. Please.
Wouldn't you like to see something spooky?
Thanks for watching. You can watch another scary animation here. Also, don't forget to subscribe and to hit that notification bell to stay tuned for future videos.
Dr. Nicely.
Count backwards from 100, said the dentist. As I slipped into unconsciousness, I saw the hand that held the drill drift from my mouth to my eye. Trapped and starving in a World War I trench, I gave my last ration to my best friend and partner. Adolf seemed so passionate about having a future in politics. It would be wrong to let him die. I love going to the beach and watching the difference between the low and high tides. Although this tide has been very low for quite some time. No one will ever believe you, he said with a shimmering grin as he held the knife. I tried to stop him from taking it from me, but with each bloody thrust into his own chest, I knew the police would never believe it really was a suicide. The school jocks all gathered in a corner and started yelling at me. Don't, please, they begged as I aimed down my sights. I took one last gulp of air as I continued sinking helplessly into the quicksand. I opened my eyes under the sand just to see hundreds of bodies frozen in place, their eyes blinking frantically at me. My dad left 3 days ago. I hope he comes home soon. I don't think Mommy is supposed to be underwater this long. Do it, I whispered. Man, I love working on the suicide hotline. I finished telling her about my nightmare that involved a tragic car crash. That's strange. I had the same dream last night too, was the last thing she said before a tractor trailer began to swerve into our lane. I never thought my sleepwalking was a problem. That all changed when I woke up in the middle of murdering the family across the street. I'm going through a lot of things right now, I jokingly said aloud to myself as my car continued to crash through the store's interior. I worked at an oil rig in the 70s. One day we drilled very deep down, hoping to find an oil deposit. But instead, we were met with 1 billion screams. They say that every time you learn something, a new wrinkle appears on your brain. After some investigation, I was angry to find out that my students didn't learn anything from my lessons. Did you know that the Center for Disease Control keeps a sample of every disease known to man in an underground vault? Did you know that some of those diseases can only be preserved inside of living human hosts? My son asked, "Mom, can I play with the kids in the basement?" We had just moved in. My doctor said the first symptom is memory loss. My doctor said the first symptom is memory loss. "I must be a good boy. I must be a good boy," the dog kept repeating to himself. After being told so many times not to bark, he remained silent as he watched the serial killer silently sneak in through the window. As they came around the corner, I lunged for the cage doors, screaming and pleading for help. "You have to get me out of here." "I told you this haunted house has the most realistic actors." One of them laughed as they walked away. Today marks 12 years of sobriety for me. As I perched over my next victim, knife in hand, I realized this filled the void much better than alcohol ever did. Someone broke into my house today while my parents were out. I tried shaking the chains as hard as I could to get their attention, but the basement walls were too thick. My wife handcuffed me to the bed, took my pants off, and winked at me, saying she would be right back. It's been an hour now, and all I smell is gas. The terror of sleep paralysis has plagued me for my entire life. Staring up at the crematory ceiling, I wish I'd known it would stay with me in death. My daughter told me about her imaginary friend that lives in the basement. I then realized she found the body. My family protected me from the monsters as I took my last schizophrenia pill. When I opened my eyes, only the monsters remained. What's big, yellow, and can't swim? A school bus full of children. "It's okay, darling. The new babysitter is here to put you to bed," my mother said as she hugged me and smiled at the young woman behind her. I'm surprised she couldn't feel me shaking as I looked upon the face that I'd been seeing outside my window for weeks. "Look, Mommy, a giant snake!" My son ran into the street to examine it, but he began violently convulsing and his body went limp seconds after touching the fallen wire. As she held my hand, she broke down sobbing and apologized to me again and again. That's probably a bad sign coming from a palm reader. I was driving in my car when I heard pounding in my trunk. I realized he wasn't dead. I decided to finally shoot the person that ruined my life. But as I pulled the trigger, everything went dark. I never believed in hell until I heard screams from the well in my backyard. I always kept my family videotapes locked away in the basement. I can't risk giving clues to where my son's body is. I finally woke up with a serious pain in my stomach after being hit in the head. "You are awake," she said as she continued to stitch the baby in me. She held her child warmly, happy she was finally a mother. She stepped over the once large and pregnant body of the woman her husband had been seeing at night, wiping the blood off the knife on her skirt. My best friend said she was a cannibal. I thought she was joking until I saw her eating my sister. The principal of my son's school called me at work today to tell me my son pushed another kid while on a school excursion. I initially thought that this hardly warranted a phone call until I remembered that my son's excursion was to the Grand Canyon. Battery at 1%. I looked at Earth one last time before my suit ran out of power. I put up some pretty solid posts last night, but I woke up this morning and noticed that almost all of them got taken down. I can't help but wonder, if they made it past the fence this easy, who's to say they aren't already inside? I kept reminding the little boy that he was going to meet SpongeBob. He eventually stopped crying and even helped me tie the bricks to his feet. I framed the first letter I got as a police officer from a woman thanking me after I'd supported her through her daughter's suicide. I passed it in my hallway every day for nearly 8 years before realizing the handwriting was the same as on the girl's suicide note. I hum quietly as I rock my 1-week-old, kissing her forehead softly. The doctors are wrong. I just know she'll take her first breath soon. Once there was an ugly barnacle. He was so ugly that everyone died. My wife approached me with a plate and asked, "Have you had enough or do you want more?" I raised my hands in surrender as I spat out blood. But it was a rhetorical question, as yet another dish shattered against my skull. With a smile, I told the genie I wished for happiness. He laughed at me, and with a snap, I felt my heart finally stop beating. A child growing up as an orphan is too terrible to think about. So I approached the sobbing girl, stepping over the bodies of her parents with the hammer raised once more. Gravity is a mere illusion and can be easily ignored if you use your brain enough. Wow, kids are really gullible these days, I thought to myself, watching them lining up at the window, which is on the 9th floor. My grandfather has Alzheimer's. I've been removing one small body part per day, and he doesn't even know he's losing them. Not only are these the most severe sunburns I've ever seen, but she's deficient in vitamin D and protein, explained the doctor as she stood by the little girl's bed in the ER. After she left the room, the girl's father leaned over to his daughter and whispered, "Sweetie, I know you were starving, but this is why we only feed at night. This sub is falling apart. I told them the torpedo protection wasn't that good. It seems you have discovered an entirely new type of termite." I felt the terror rise in my chest as the doctor turned around with the X-rays. This also explains the aching you've been feeling in your bones. Thanks for watching. You can watch another scary animation here. Also, don't forget to subscribe and to hit that notification bell to stay tuned for future videos.
Doctor Nicely.
This happened last Thursday, and before you ask, yes, I told the cops everything. I teach a class of about 30 students on a normal day, including those who tie in virtually. I have a hard time keeping their attention, except when I'm talking about sex ed. So I knew that when the actual lockdown was happening, most of them were just going to shrug it off and not pay attention. They didn't realize how real the threat was. We have always said that we would be fine, but when that announcement came over the speaker, I don't think any of us were. And my job as their teacher was to keep them calm and collected as we left our classroom and went to our designated spot, a computer room a few doors down. The plan was simple. We would barricade the door while security roamed the halls and found the danger. I told myself that it was all going to go exactly according to plan, just like it had during our dozens of drills. It happened midway down the South Hall, As we were going in between the rooms, the roar of the air conditioner turned on louder than usual, and it made all of us stop to look. Then, some sort of strange purple mist was pouring out of the vents. It looked like a cloud of electric mist. "What the hell is that?" one student asked as it snaked its way out of the vent toward us. I knew that whatever it was, it had to be dangerous. But sadly, my students weren't as bright. One boy reached his hand out inquisitively and tried to touch the cloud. I watched as bolts of lightning coursed through his body and made him light up like a Christmas tree. It was terrifying to behold. And the lightning entered and scorched his bones. Then he fell to the ground, and all of us watched as the strange mist pushed its way out of his mouth and nostrils. It was alive. "Run!" I urged the kids as we made it to the computer room. I told a larger kid to block the door, and I got on my walkie-talkie to tell the principal what was happening. "We've got a problem in the south wing," I shouted. I was only greeted by static. Then the air started to roar again, and we realized the same mist was pushing its way into the computer room. We were trapped. "Out the window," I urged them. Suddenly, the strange alien cloud was moving faster, hitting 3 different students one by one. They fell unconscious to the floor in less than a second. Meanwhile, a few girls were prying the window open, calling to some of the kids down in the football field to help. But they only got a few words out before the cloud engulfed them as well. Before I knew what was happening, I was standing in a room of dead kids. The cloud swirled about, seemingly staring me down as I fearfully backed away to one of the walls. Then, perhaps full from its feasts, it dissipated. The cameras didn't show anything except the fact that the kids had mysteriously collapsed. The medical report said it was some kind of shock or heart condition, and some parents accepted that. But I know what I saw, and I'm worried that it's still inside our vents, waiting for the next drill to strike again. Miss Shriver was just finishing a lecture about gun safety when she unlocked her closet and pulled out the strange-looking doll. It was about 5 foot tall, a genderless bland mannequin that looked like it had seen better days, with rubber eyeballs glued in and a wavy smile taped on. A few of the girls in the back of the class giggled at how silly it looked. "Class, this is Lockdown Larry. Now I know that he doesn't look like much, but he's going to teach us all about what happens when we don't follow the rules on safety," Miss Shriver explained. Immediately, Bradley Colt burst out laughing right behind me. "This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Is it supposed to be a CPR dummy? How is a mannequin supposed to help us?" Some of the other students muttered and laughed in agreement. It was a bit absurd, but our English teacher did not look amused. She grabbed her ruler and smacked it right against my desk. Her eyes seemed to convey nothing but pure rage. "Because, Bradley, if we are just as complacent as this dumb doll, as you call it, then we're going to be in danger when a lockdown happens. We all need to be aware of what our role is in," but she didn't get to finish. Colt just simply could not stop laughing. He was literally red in the face. And then Shriver got that way too, but for an entirely different reason. She was angry. She opened her mouth to say something else when over the intercom, an announcement was made that we were doing a lockdown drill. Then she smiled. It did not seem like a friendly smile. "Well, this is a perfect chance for us to all see what happens when we don't respect our rules," she muttered. Bradley rolled his eyes and crossed his arms as the rest of us got over toward the wall. "Class, I want all of you to head for the science hall. Bradley, you'll stay here and learn your lesson," our teacher announced. Colt just laughed again, but sounded a little nervous. I think we all were. Miss Shriver was one of those teachers that you simply didn't want to cross. So the rest of us quietly shuffled out, and she stayed behind with him. We kept our heads down and wondered what sort of punishment she was about to dish out for poor Bradley. The bell rang about 5 minutes later, and it was time to get back to class. All of us imagined there was going to be some kind of lecture, and Bradley was going to be making a proper apology when we came in. But instead, when we got into the classroom, we saw something that made our blood run cold. Now, instead of one mannequin, there were 2. And upon closer inspection of it, we realized the second lifelike doll looked exactly like Bradley Colt. Miss Shriver smiled in a sinister way as we looked toward her. "Now, class, let's all turn our attention to page 42 of our history books, Bradley's mannequin stayed perfectly still the rest of class. After school, I overheard Miss Shriver tell his parents that there had been an accident during the lockdown drill. They swore up and down they were going to sue her and the school. I thought about telling them the truth of the strange evil that had overtaken him. But then I saw Miss Shriver smile again, and my heart dropped. "Don't forget the lesson of Lockdown Larry," she whispered to us as we left school. And I knew we were all wondering the same question. What the hell did she do to Bradley? The bell rings. Mr. Solomon says something to us about how this is not a drill. But honestly, I'm not really paying attention. You know how everything works so perfectly whenever you practice, but then the real thing occurs, and you feel like a chicken with your head cut off? As my friends are shuffling out toward the hallway, that's exactly how I feel. I don't recall what we are supposed to be doing, so I just keep quiet and follow the crowd as we head for the gym. I mentally wonder how many of us actually don't have a clue. What if we were just like lemmings being led off a cliff? In the gym, Principal McSchroeder is asking for different honor roll students to do a head count, make sure we are all here. I can't help but to notice the confusion on everyone's faces. We really weren't expecting this. Everyone is wondering, is this for real or just another drill? Of course, the teachers don't tell us. We're just supposed to obey and do as we're told. "Looks like everyone is accounted for," one girl tells the principal. Something about all of this feels wrong. Like a floodgate, the memories of all our drills are pouring into my head. We never came to this gym before. I can't help but to feel claustrophobic. What if this was some kind of trap? I look around. There's got to be at least 900 kids in here. And I realize that I don't feel safe in this crowd. This is not what we are supposed to be doing. I push through, mumbling excuses as I wriggle toward the back hallway. We always went to the closet bathroom and locked ourselves inside. Always, 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 I thought. And as I made it out toward the rear, I could hear myself think clearly again, and I pulled out my phone to text my best friend, Seth. "Get out of the gym, not safe," is all I can think of to say. I didn't really have an explanation to back up that statement, just a feeling. Then a soft ping made a few students look toward me as I was told to silence my phone. And I read a message that made my heart drop. "I'm not in the gym. What do you want about?" Now my heart is racing. The entire scene of getting here plays out in my mind again. As I look up, I realize the entire auditorium is staring at me. No one is blinking. The back of my neck feels sweaty as I cling to the wall. Where the hell am I? I see an emergency exit next to me and stumble through it. I ran like the devil himself was chasing me. I made it all the way to the east bathroom, the one I was supposed to be at, and ducked inside. When I saw familiar faces, I felt a rush of relief. "And where exactly have you been?" Mr. Solomon asked angrily. My mind flashed back to the gym. Who the hell did I just follow? "I can't explain right now. Just follow me," I replied as I quickly led him toward the gym, frightened and worried about what we would see. We stepped inside as Mr. Solomon locked the door behind him. I turn around as he pulls a gun out from under his jacket. "You should have paid attention in class." "No, wait!" Also, it turns out that most of you guys who watch me aren't actually subscribed. So if you like the content and want to support the channel, go ahead and hit the bell. It's free, and you can always change your mind later.
It was my sophomore year of college. I woke up to get ready for my first period class. I glanced outside my window. There was a dense layer of fog, and I could barely see 20 feet in front of me. Something caught my attention in the corner of my eye. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. A strange man was standing in the grass outside my dorm. He was wearing a black trench coat and had a wide-brimmed hat. It was too foggy to make out any facial features of the man. I thought it was strange because he was just standing there, staring in my direction. He didn't move. My fight or flight reflex kicked in. I shut the blinds and locked my door. My roommate Jake didn't have class until later in the morning, so he was still sleeping. I heard him rustling around in bed, and I assumed I must have woken him up. I tapped him on the shoulder to get his attention. He was less than happy that I disturbed him from his sleep. I told him about the strange man I saw. He pulled his sheets off from over him, stood up, and opened the blinds. We both looked outside the window. Jake said, "It was probably just a business major dressed up for class." I told him, "First of all, none of the business majors wear trench coats. Second of all, I've never seen a student wearing a black, wide-brimmed hat before." Jake jokingly said, "Maybe you saw someone from the Matrix." I wasn't amused by my roommate's humor this particular morning. I decided to just skip my first period class. I tried to get more sleep, but I couldn't. The strange man kept coming to my mind. I thought, why the hell was this guy just standing right outside my dorm? Why was he looking in my direction? And why was he dressed so weird? I decided to just wait for Jake to go to class. That way I could walk with him to campus. He noticed that I was waiting for him and poked fun at me. He said, "Do you need me to hold your hand too, honey?" I played it off that I just overslept and that the strange guy didn't faze me. Deep down, I was still creeped out and didn't even want to leave my dorm. Jake picked up his school bag and we headed out the door. Once we got outside, I noticed the fog didn't improve one bit. We started our walk towards campus. In order to get to the main buildings from my dorm, you had to travel through a long tunnel underneath a road. As we got closer to the tunnel, a bad feeling started to come over me. It was like a bad omen of what was to come. Finally, we made it to the tunnel. You couldn't see past the end of the tunnel due to the wall of fog. After getting about halfway through the tunnel, we noticed some movement at the far end. My roommate jokingly said, "Wouldn't it be funny if this was Mr. Trenchcoat?" I stayed silent. My heart rate started to increase. I really hoped this was just another student. The figure becomes more clear now. The wide-brimmed hat was the first thing to become visible through the dense fog. Jake and I abruptly stopped. I looked at Jake. He had a nervous look across his face. Jake was normally Mr. Tough Guy, and I've never seen him look this scared. Jake yelled, "Who's there?" The figure edged closer. Now we could see his black trench coat, but still couldn't make out his face. It was the exact same guy I saw earlier. There was about 20 feet separating us from the creepy guy at the end of the tunnel. Jake yelled again, "Who's there?" The guy didn't say a word. There was complete silence. I looked at Jake, waiting for him to do something. He was completely frozen. The sound of an alarm jolted Jake and I. The sound came from an emergency pole at the beginning of the tunnel. These poles were used in lockdowns or could be activated by students if they felt unsafe. I had never seen one go off before. The alarm was followed by a robotic voice. The strange man started to inch forward. Jack and I were both frozen in terror. I noticed something shiny in the man's hands. It was a large butcher's knife. I punched Jake, trying to knock him out of his trance, and yelled, "Run!" We darted backwards through the tunnel and back to our dorm. We locked the door and wedged our desks against the handle. Jake said, "What the hell was that?" The blinds were closed in my room, but I couldn't curb my curiosity. I barely moved the blinds to peek out of the top corner. There he was. The man in the trench coat was looking right at me. I turned my head and motioned Jake to come over. I looked outside again, and The man was gone. Other students had reported this man, and that was the reason for the lockdown. I never saw him again, and pray to God I never will. I will never know if this was just a sick prank or a depraved man who actually wanted to harm people. It was my last day being a senior in high school. The year was 2016. The creepy clown phenomenon was in full swing. Creepy clowns seemed to be popping up all over the world. Most clown cases were harmless and just pranks. I was looking forward to signing yearbooks and saying my goodbyes to close friends. Who knew that my day was about to change in a way I could never imagine? Word got around that two seniors, Trevor and Noah, were planning a prank. They were the class clowns of our class, no pun intended. I received word that they were going to dress up as killer clowns and terrorize the teachers. I instantly thought it was a bad idea, but I wasn't against some good entertainment. I tried to find more information about the prank, but the only thing that kept coming up was fourth period lunch. I assumed that's when the shenanigans would start. Fourth period of lunch started. There was no sign of clowns. Finally, I saw a clown. He was just outside the main cafeteria doors, hiding behind a statue of our school mascot. His appearance was so creepy. I was really impressed. I didn't really think Trevor or Noah would be that creative. One by one, students began to notice the clown. Most of the guys thought it was amusing. Some girls, however, were fearful and started crying. I looked out one of the side windows and saw another clown. This had to be it, I thought. There they are, Trevor and Noah. It was right then that I saw two more clowns. They were hiding behind support poles in front of the cafeteria. I thought this was weird, but I just assumed more people had to be in on the prank. All of a sudden, the power went out. I thought, classic Trevor and Noah, always taking things too far. The school's PA system came on over the loudspeaker. Code Black. Follow full lockdown procedures. Repeat, Code Black. I wondered if I should tell one of the teachers about the prank. I thought this was getting out of hand and was going too far. Right then, the back door to the cafeteria busted open. It was Trevor and Noah. They were in their normal school clothes. They both had a ghostly white look across their face. Both were also drenched in sweat. Noah screamed, "Killer clowns! They're everywhere!" Half the cafeteria was dead silent. Another half laughed and thought this was a complete joke. Trevor said, "This is not a joke. Clowns chased us with real knives." I glanced outside again. There were two clowns at the main cafeteria doors. Both were wielding knives. They slowly dragged their knives across the glass. Based on the loud screeching sound the knives made, I had no doubt they were real. I looked at both side exits, and clowns were there as well. There was no way out. I started to get nervous. Everyone was in disbelief as to what was happening. The door that Noah and Trevor ran through swung open again. I thought to myself, what idiots for not locking the door behind them. It was a creepy clown. His outfit and face paint was exactly like Pennywise from the movie It. He went over to a table full of girls and pulled a huge knife from his waistband. He began laughing in a high-pitched voice, almost as if he was crazed. I heard a loud rumbling noise. A huge SWAT emergency response vehicle pulled up right in front of the cafeteria. The creepy clown in the cafeteria dropped his knife and ran. The other clowns bolted as well. Only one clown ended up getting arrested, and it was a senior from a rival high school. I hope no one's last day of high school is as creepy as mine was. I was only in first grade, but my memory of that day is still crystal clear. My class had just finished lunch, and we went outside for recess. Our school had a massive playhouse. I was very rebellious at the time, and I hated when recess ended. When the teacher called all the students inside, I tried to see how long I could hide in the playhouse for. Eventually, I heard nothing but silence. I thought there was no way my teacher didn't notice me missing. I stood up and looked around. Sure enough, there was no one in sight. It felt awesome being alone without any adult supervision. After a few minutes by myself, I thought I should go inside. I was worried the longer I stayed outside, the harder it would be to explain myself to my teacher. Right when I was about to jump off the playhouse, alarms started to go off. Startled, I hid inside the playhouse. I was too young to know what a lockdown was, but I knew something wasn't right. I stood up again and looked around. I made eye contact with a guy right outside the playground's fence. He was wearing all black. He started to try and scale the fence. That's when I noticed he had a gun. My fight or flight response kicked in. My instincts told me to run. I jumped off the playhouse and ran towards the exterior door. I tried to pull on the handle, but it was locked. I heard a thud behind me. I looked over my shoulder. The creepy man had just landed on my side of the fence and was headed in my direction. I began screaming. I started to kick in and punch the door out of desperation. Finally, a teacher opened the door and yanked me inside. I noticed the teacher who pulled me in was Mrs. Jones. I was in her class the previous year. She led me to a classroom full of students and told me to crouch down behind a desk. I heard someone banging on the exterior door. I thought this had to be the guy with the gun. The banging stopped for a brief second. I then heard the sound of a body slamming into the door. A few seconds of silence, then another slam. I waited, expecting to hear a third slam. It didn't come. About 20 seconds went by, then I heard a loud boom. The guy must have hit the door running at full speed. I heard the door swing open and hit the wall. The intruder was in the school. He started banging on our classroom door. With one kick, our door swung open. Mrs. Jones stood in between us and the intruder. The man pointed the gun at her head and yelled, "Where is that bitch?" Mrs. Jones said, "Sir, I don't know what you're talking about, but if you could just..." Before she could finish her sentence, the man said, "Where is Miss Julie?" I shuddered. Miss Julie was my teacher. Mrs. Jones was silent. The man said, "So that's how we're gonna play this, huh?" The man violently grabbed Mrs. Jones and pulled her out into the hallway. The last thing I saw was the man forcing Mrs. Jones down the hallway towards Miss Julie's room. We all sat in silence for what seemed like an eternity. Then we heard a loud, followed by another. I knew right then that Miss Julie was gone.
It was sophomore year of high school. Prom was about 2 months away. I was pretty good at football, so I guess you could say I was in the more popular crowd. I never really forced relationships, and women usually just came to me. I had heard from other people that Sarah wanted to go to prom with me. Sarah was in the same grade as me. She was such a beautiful girl that even seniors wanted to date her. I knew that Sarah had just gotten out of a long relationship with another guy named Trent. He was a freshman at our high school and was a little off in a way that's hard to describe. There was gossip in our school that there was something mentally wrong with him. Because of the recent breakup between Sarah and Trent, I didn't really want to ask her to prom. All of Sarah's friends badgered me relentlessly to go to prom with her. They assured me everything would be fine. Even my guy friends told me I needed to grow a pair and ask her to prom. Finally, one afternoon, I intercepted Sarah in the parking lot and asked her to prom. She was delighted, and I went home feeling like I was on top of the world. My feeling of euphoria faded when I opened a Snapchat notification on my phone. It was Trent. He was trying to add me on Snapchat. I thought I couldn't just ignore him, so I added him back. Immediately, I received a Snapchat message from him. It read, "So, I heard you asked my girlfriend Sarah to prom." I quickly replied, "You guys broke up a month ago." He didn't respond back to me. I dreaded running into Trent the next day at school. I just felt so bad for Trent. I started to think that it wasn't even worth going to prom with Sarah over this nonsense. The next day at school, I didn't see Trent anywhere. I usually passed him on the way to a few of my classes. I thought it was odd not seeing him. I asked around and found out that he never made it to school. I was relieved that there was no chance of running into him. My relief was crushed by a Snapchat notification. It was Trent. This time, he sent me a video. I didn't even want to watch it. I tried to think of what the video could be, but nothing came to my mind. An hour went by, and I finally decided to watch it. The video was of a shooting range. Trent was recording in one and had a pistol in the other. The caption said, "This is you." He proceeded to fire multiple shots into a target about 20 feet in front of him. I was shocked. I thought I was in a movie and that this couldn't be real. I told my friends what I had witnessed, and eventually word got around to the whole school. I was called down to the dean's office. Multiple teachers and faculty were there. I told them everything I had seen. After telling them my story, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I thought to myself, oh no, here we go again. I pulled my phone out. It was Trent again. I told everyone in the room that Trent sent me another Snapchat video. They all gathered around in anticipation. I opened it. The video was of a crematorium. The footage showed a body on a conveyor belt on its way to an incinerator. The caption said, "This is you." Everyone in the room, including myself, were horrified. Immediately, the principal put the whole school on lockdown and called the police. Trent was later arrested by the police. Trent was never charged with anything, but our high school expelled him. I figured out that Trent's grandparents actually owned a crematorium, and that's where the footage came from. I still ended up taking Sarah to prom. She was just too beautiful to pass up. I never did receive another Snapchat from Trent, and I hope I never do. The year was 2011. I was in 8th grade at the time. My homeroom class had just finished lunch, and we're on our way to 6th period math class. The cafeteria and the main school building were separated, so we always had our homeroom teacher walk with us after lunch. We had to walk about a quarter mile outside to the main school building. As we were walking, I noticed our teacher received a call on his cell phone. It was a very brief call. After the call, I noticed that all the blood rushed away from his face. He told us in a frantic voice that something serious is happening, and we need to hurry to a classroom. He started to jog with all of us in quick pursuit. Our homeroom teacher was usually a pretty laid-back guy, so I knew something wasn't right. He led us to an empty classroom that I had never been in before. He told all of us to get low and hide beneath the desks. He proceeded to cover up the windows, lock the doors, and turn off the lights. I crouched under one of the desks in the back of the room. A kid named Michael sat down next to me. I thought to myself, come on, anybody but Michael. Michael was a strange kid. He was really shy, and no one really talked to him. He also smelled like rotten eggs, which didn't help. A lot of my classmates made fun of him. My friends often joked around that Michael would be the one to shoot up our school. I was always kind to Michael, but I never went out of my way to talk to him. After a few minutes sitting next to Michael, I wanted to gag. The smell was so horrid. I looked around, trying to find any open space to scoot over to. It was at that moment Michael whispered to me, "Hey, you don't have to sit next to me." I whispered back, "I was just looking for more room to spread out my legs, that's all." He replied, "I know you were trying to get away from me. Nobody likes me." I didn't respond. He continued to whisper, "But don't worry, you've always been kind to me. You're not on the list." I shuddered in fear. The list? What did he mean by the list? I asked Michael if he had anything to do with this. He just shrugged and smiled at me. Michael was sitting with his legs fully extended, with his hands pressed against the floor behind his back. He moved his legs inward, probably to get more comfortable. It was at that moment I saw the butt of a gun slide outwards from his pants pocket. Michael quickly caught the gun and pushed it back in. He looked around to see if anyone noticed. I quickly glanced away and pretended I didn't see anything. My heart was racing. I didn't know what to do. I thought of tackling Michael, or even texting for help on my phone. I also wondered if there were more people other than Michael involved. The answer to my question was answered. I heard the sound of an exterior door into the school being forced open. Footsteps started charging down the hallway. It sounded like multiple people. My heart dropped. I thought these had to be the other students involved in the plot. The footsteps were getting closer. They stopped right outside our door. I tried turning the knob every which way. I thought, this is it, the end of my short life. The door was kicked open, and a full SWAT team rushed in. I looked at Michael, and he had a surprised look on his face, as if this wasn't what he was expecting. Long story short, a student had made a threat to the school. The authorities found out it was Michael by tracing an email he sent to one of our teachers. The email talked about a plot to shoot up the school. Michael went to a juvenile detention center, and I have no idea what happened to him. Our principal told everyone that Michael had a fake gun on him. I thought there was no way it was fake. I believe the principal knew the truth, but didn't want the public to know. To this day, I still wonder if there were more students involved in the plot. I guess I'll never know. It was the middle of third period math. I had just finished my test. I was done before anyone else, so I decided to use the restroom. The bathroom was right across the hall, but it was closed for repairs. The next closest bathroom was on the second floor. On my way there, the bell rang. I thought that was odd, because there was still about 20 minutes of class left. The bell never rang in the middle of class like this. After the bell rang, an announcement came on over the PA system. "We are entering lockdown. This is not a drill. Please follow all procedures." My heart nearly stopped. I froze, and I didn't know what to do. I could hear the faint sound of sirens in the background. I knew that going back to my classroom wasn't an option, because the doors would be locked. I decided to continue to the second floor bathroom. I arrived at the bathroom, but I realized the main door didn't have a lock. I left and ran further down the hall. I could see the classrooms turning off their lights and covering their windows. At the end of the hallway, I turned the corner and saw a janitor's closet. Now, the sirens were much louder. I decided the janitor's closet was my only option. I pulled the handle and sighed in relief as it was unlocked. I closed the door behind me and made sure it was locked. I turned the lights off and crouched down in the far corner of the room. The only light I could see was from the bottom of the door. The sirens were loud now and seemed to be right outside the school. Suddenly, the sirens turned off. Then, I heard footsteps. A lot of footsteps. The footsteps led up the stairs and stopped in the hallway right outside my hiding spot. I heard the sound of radio chatter and figured these had to be police officers. One guy in particular sounded like he was in charge. He said, "Okay, are we in position?" Another guy responded, "Yes, sir. The suspect is here in the building. C team is in position on the other side of campus as instructed, and B team is covering all the exterior exits. There's no way he'll be able to escape this building." The guy in charge said, "Good, he must not escape. It's my fault he's here, and it's my duty to deal with him." Over the next couple minutes, I heard the muffled chatter of police officers talking to each other. I thought maybe the situation died down, and I could leave the closet and go back to class. That's when it all happened. I heard one of the officers yell, "Don't move, and put your hands in the air." A moment later, I heard what sounded like guns being drawn. About 10 seconds of silence went by, and then I heard a loud scream that came from the end of the hallway. It wasn't a normal scream. I had never heard anything like it before, and hoped to never hear that sound again. I pressed my ear against the closet door and heard a distant whimpering sound. It was the sound of a crying man. I then heard him say, "Please, don't take me back there. I don't want to go back. You guys won't get away with this. What you guys are doing to us is illegal, and everyone will find out about it." The man in charge said, Now, Jim, you signed the contract. That was the deal for your early prison release. You need to come back to the facility and finish up your treatments." I thought to myself, deal for your prison release? Finish up your treatments? What the heck? I heard the footsteps leaving. They walked past my hiding spot. I cracked open the door just to check out what was happening. I saw the backs of 5 men. The 2 men in the middle were carrying a man in a hospital gown. I assumed that was Jim. All 5 men were wearing black suits. They certainly didn't look like police officers. I peeked outside the window and saw 5 blacked out SUVs. I ran back to my classroom and told my classmates what I saw and heard. They thought I was crazy. Our teacher told us that the lockdown was just a false alarm and nothing had happened. When I got home later that day, there was nothing about it on the news. I have no idea what happened or what I saw that day.
Thanks for watching. You can watch another scary animation here. Also, don't forget to subscribe and to hit that notification bell to stay tuned for future videos.
My ex-boyfriend, Chad, was a total idiot. We met at a yoga class where he laughed when our teacher mentioned downward dog and refused to say namaste because he didn't know Spanish. I'm not joking. Now, of course, I looked past that because he was so damn hot. I mean, just watching his muscular body twist into all those yoga positions literally left me drooling. "Hey, I'm Chad." He asked me out for coffee afterward. One thing led to another, and pretty soon we were dating. Things were great at first, and I found his idiocy kind of charming. He was my big, dumb eye candy, and all my friends were really jealous. Unfortunately, our honeymoon phase only lasted a month. That's when he started acting jealous. I work at a tech company, so I have a lot of male friends. Chad hated that I hung out with other guys after work. He insisted that he tag along, even though he had no interest in the kinds of stuff we did. He sucked at bar trivia. He hated going to foreign films. Even when we did the activities that he wanted to do, like hiking or going to the gym, he acted really possessive. He didn't understand most of my conversations with my friends, so he always assumed that we were either flirting or making fun of him. He got really suspicious of my coworker, Paul, in particular. Paul's a great guy, though he's nowhere near as attractive as Chad. He's also happily married, but Chad got it in his head that Paul and I were secretly hooking up behind his back. One night, my coworkers invited me to the bowling alley. Now, of course, Chad insisted that he come along, even though he was not invited. He acted like a jerk the whole time, especially to Paul. Then, after everyone else left, I found a piece of paper in my purse. "Dear Mia, you're really annoying. I don't think we should be friends. Paul." Chad saw me reading the note and got really dramatic about it, pretending like he was furious at Paul. But of course, I knew the truth. Paul had a PhD. He knew how to spell. My boyfriend was trying to frame him. That was the moment I realized how stupid my boyfriend truly was. Not because he thought that I would believe the note, but because he was almost illiterate. I mean, what grown man didn't know how to spell friends? I didn't say anything at the time because it was too awkward. We went back home as if nothing had happened, and by the time we went to bed, I am pretty sure that he could tell I wasn't convinced. He didn't bring up the note after that. I didn't either. I broke up with him 2 weeks later. I really tried to make it work just because he was so freaking hot. But when he embarrassed me at my office Christmas party, I had to end things. That's it. Chad, we're done. Chad looked at me with more anger than I'd ever seen on his face. I probably should have dumped him in private. He was very thin-skinned, as you can probably tell. For a second, I thought that he was going to scream at me. Instead, he just glared for a long time, and then he stormed off without saying anything. I tried to enjoy the rest of the party, but it was really awkward. I ended up going home early. Chad didn't live with me, thank God, so I went to bed alone. The next morning, I drove to the supermarket, trying not to think of Chad. When I got out of my car, I noticed that people were staring. It was pretty weird. I went inside and I did my shopping. And then when I came out, I realized the reason behind the stares. Someone had graffitied the word SALT on the side of my car in big red letters. SALT. S-U-L-T. I burst out laughing. Yes, it was embarrassing and horrible, but in the moment, I just thought it was funny. My mood changed when I got home and saw that the same thing had been painted on my garage door. Not only that, my mailbox was broken. Chad wasn't just stupid, he was dangerous. I took photos of all the damage and I drove straight to the police station to report it. The officer who took my information seemed nice enough, but I could tell that he wasn't taking this seriously. He could barely hide his smirk when I showed him the photos. I told him that I was 100% certain that my ex was responsible, and he called Chad in for questioning. The officer made me wait outside while he interrogated Chad. It only lasted 2 minutes before the officer walked back out. I'm sorry, miss, but he says he didn't do it. And he has an alibi. An alibi? What a bunch of crap! I was furious, but I held in my emotions, and I calmly asked if I could ask Chad 2 questions. I already knew exactly what to say. The officer begrudgingly agreed. He took me back into the interrogation room, where Chad was sitting on the other side of the table, acting all cocky and confident. For my first question, I showed him the photo of my vandalized car. What does this say? He took a long time looking at the picture, acting as if he'd never seen it before. I can't say that word in mixed company. I give you permission. It says slut. That means a woman who sleeps around and cheats on her boyfriend. I looked at the policeman. Clearly, he could see that Chad was the vandal. What more proof did he need? But the officer still wasn't convinced. So I asked Chad my second question. I asked him to spell the word. You're serious? What is this, 3rd grade? S-U-L-T. And that was when the policeman finally arrested him. I have a restraining order against him now, and the graffiti has been painted over. I haven't seen him since his court appearance, so I have no idea what he's up to. Probably still as dumb as ever.
My husband William was a very wealthy man. I was his second wife, 20 years younger. A lot of people assume I'm some gold digger, but I come from money too. The truth was, I loved him. That's all. He had 2 sons with his first wife, Kevin and Joe. Kevin was the older one. He still lived with us so he could help take care of William in his later years and help manage his business. I did my best, but I had my own company to run, so I was out of the house a lot. Kevin was a genuine lifesaver, and it was obvious that he loved his father very much. Unfortunately, Joe was the exact opposite. He moved out at 18 and wasted his father's money on a life of partying and alcohol. Whenever he came home, he treated William and Kevin like garbage. He wasn't subtle about it either. Joe was a spoiled brat who couldn't wait for his father to die. I tried talking some sense into him, but William stopped me every time. He kept saying Joe would grow up eventually. Last winter, I returned home after a long business trip. William was in his bed upstairs, where he spent most of his time now. I saw Kevin sitting alone in the living room. He was pale and deeply upset. "What's wrong?" Kevin didn't answer. Instead, he handed me a piece of paper. It was William's will. I don't know how he found it. I'd always assumed that William would split the inheritance evenly between his children, though I'd secretly hoped that he'd give Kevin more. He deserved it. Instead, The will gave nearly everything to Joe. Most of the money, all of the properties except for this house, that went to me. He even gave the majority shares of his company to Joe, despite the fact that Kevin was basically running it himself. All poor Kevin got was a fishing boat. What did I do? I'm not here just for the money, but I don't understand why he'd do this. Does he hate me? I hugged him and let him cry in my arms. He wasn't a greedy person. He didn't care if he was rich. He was upset that his father's last decision on this earth was choosing Joe over him. I told him I'd handle this. I took the will and immediately went upstairs to confront my husband. William was asleep, his medical machines beeping. At this age, he had his good days and his bad days. This looked like one of his good days. There was color in his cheeks and his expression was happy. I gently woke him up and showed him the will. Where'd you find that? It doesn't matter. Why are you doing this to Kevin? He gestured for me to join him in bed. I did. As he held me, he told me a secret that he kept for our entire marriage. Joe was his only real son. His first wife had cheated on him, and Kevin was the result of her affair. But he's still your son. You raised him. He does everything for you. I didn't even mention that I helped raise him too. I knew Kevin wasn't my biological son, but I was still his mother. William looked very sad. He knew what he was doing was unfair, but in his generation, bloodlines were more important than actions. His decision was final. That was the moment I stopped loving him. Despite all his health problems, I always thought he was a wonderful man with a kind heart. This will proved I was wrong. I kissed him goodbye and told him I was taking our son to stay at the vacation home. He had a nurse that could care for him while we were gone. He begged me to stay, but I told him he needed time alone to think. Kevin didn't want to leave. He truly had a kind heart. He said his father needed him, but he trusted me and I got him to pack his things and leave with me that evening. I left William alone for a week. During that time, I really bonded with Kevin. I told him about the family secret, which was difficult for him to process, but he took the news a lot better than I expected. I think he liked having a reason behind his father's favoritism, now that he knew it wasn't because of anything he did. After a week of no contact, we went back home. The place was absolutely trashed. After we left, William had asked Joe to come back. Not surprisingly, Joe turned his family home into one giant party. Furniture was broken and trash was everywhere. We looked around for Joe but couldn't find him. Instead, we found the maid, who was struggling to clean up Joe's mess, but she didn't know where he'd gone off to. I have to check on Dad. Kevin rushed upstairs. Even though he'd been cut out of the will, he still wanted to make sure his father was okay. William was upstairs, still in bed. Joe had been in the house all week, but he only visited William once. I could see in my husband's eyes he was regretting his decision, but he was still too stubborn to change his will. I could also see that his health was worse than ever. It was only a matter of time before his body finally gave out. Kevin fluffed his pillow and made sure he was comfortable. Then he left me alone to talk to my husband in private. I asked him one last time if he really wanted to give his entire fortune to a son who didn't care about him at all. Sit with me, my love. I did as he said. I was still angry at his stubbornness, but he had very little time left. I fell asleep by his side, and when I woke up, he was dead. We had a grand funeral. Both Kevin and I were sobbing, while Joe was on his phone the whole time. Then, a week later, our lawyer read the will. Kevin graciously accepted his fishing boat, while Joe screamed and danced around the room at his much larger inheritance. It was sickening. That night, I invited our closest friends to the house for a dinner in William's honor. It was supposed to be a small affair, a celebration of his life. We gathered on the roof patio, where William loved to throw parties. Unfortunately, Joe was drunk and high when he joined us. He tried to make the dinner into a party to celebrate his new millions. He was loud and obnoxious, while Kevin did his best to keep the focus on their father. Just as Kevin was trying to give a toast in honor of William, Joe jumped out of his chair and started running around. He wanted everyone to look at him.
Don't listen to this loser. I'm Dad's favorite. I'm the rich one. I'm richer than all you assholes.
Kevin shouted for him to calm down, but his brother just kept running around and ranting about how he was the favorite son. He had to be on some kind of substance. He jumped on the railing, acting like he was king of the world.
I'm rich! I'm a god! I'm invisible! First of all, it's invincible. And no, you're not. Get down before you hurt yourself.
Suddenly, he lost his balance and disappeared over the ledge. We didn't see him fall off the 3-story house, but we heard his body splat onto the ground. He died on impact. As his mother, I was his beneficiary by default. All the money he inherited went to me, and I gave every cent to Kevin.
I never thought I'd end up back in my mom's house at 32, but life has a way of kicking you when you're down. It was right after I got laid off from the warehouse job in Phoenix. Some corporate manager bullshit that left half the crew scrambling. Rent was due, and my savings were a joke. Barely enough for a week's groceries. Mom lived alone in that old split level in Scottsdale, the one Dad built before he passed from cancer 10 years back. She was thrilled when I called her voice all warm and quivery on the phone. "Andrew, honey, come home. There's plenty of room, and I can use the company." I felt a rush of relief, like a kid again, safe under her roof. Grateful didn't even cover it. I hugged her tight when I pulled up with my beat-up truck, boxes piled up in the back. The first few weeks were okay, almost good. I helped with chores, mowed the lawn, fixed the leaky faucet in the kitchen, all while job hunting. My mom would make her famous lasagna, the kind with extra cheese that stuck to your ribs, and we'd watch reruns of those old sitcoms she loved. "Oh, remember when you were little and we'd laugh at these?" she'd say, patting my knee. I'd nod, smiling, even though my mind was elsewhere, worrying about interviews that never planned out. But then weird stuff started. It began with the crying. I'd be in my old room upstairs scrolling through job listings late at night, and I'd hear it. Soft, mumbled sobs coming from her bedroom downstairs. At first I thought maybe she was upset about something, missing Dad or whatever. I knocked once around midnight. "Mom, you okay in there?" The crying abruptly stopped, and she opened the door, her face blank, hair tousled, like she'd just woken up. "What are you talking about, Andrew? I'm fine. Go back to bed." No tears on her cheeks, nothing. I shrugged it off, but it happened again a few nights later, louder this time, like someone was heartbroken. I confronted her in the morning over coffee. "I heard you crying last night. Mom, if something's wrong, you can tell me." She just stared at me, stirring her mug slowly. "I wasn't crying, dear. Must have been the wind or a neighbor." Bullshit, I thought, but I let it go. A few days later, I had an interview lined up, a decent gig at a distribution center, and I pulled out my only nice shirt from the dryer. It was scorched, black marks across the collar, like someone had left the iron on it too long. "Mom, what the hell?" I yelled, storming into the living room, where she was folding the laundry. She looked up confused. "I ironed that yesterday. It was fine." "Fine? It's ruined. Did you do this on purpose?" Her eyes widened. "Why would I do that? Maybe the iron's acting up." I didn't buy it. The next week, my jeans came out with a single hole in the pocket. "This is getting ridiculous," I muttered to myself. But aloud, I said, "Mom, if you don't want me here, just say it." She shook her head, voice trembling. "Andrew, I love having you here. Stop accusing me." The water shutoffs were the worst. I'd be in the shower, finally relaxing after a crappy day. Soap in my eyes, and then suddenly, nothing. The faucet would sputter and die. First time I figured it was a glitch, wrapped a towel around me and checked the basement valve. It was twisted off. "Mom," I bellowed, dripping water on the carpet. She poked her head out of the kitchen. "What now?" "Did you turn off the water?" "No, why would I do that? Maybe maintenance is working on the lines." But it happened 3 more times, always when I was mid-shower. freezing my ass off. One evening after a particularly bad one, I lost it. This is sabotage, isn't it? You're trying to make me miserable, so I'll leave. She backed away, hands up. Andrew, please, I swear, it's not me. Let's talk about this. I started believing she was gaslighting me, like those stories you hear about toxic parents who can't let go. My frustration built like a storm. Job search was going nowhere. Callbacks that led to, we'll let you know. And living with her felt like I was walking on eggshells. I'd lie awake, hearing those cries again, wondering if she was faking it to mess with my head. Why are you doing this? I asked over breakfast, and she replied softly, I'm not, honey. Maybe you're stressed from the job hunt. That pissed me off even more, that fake concern. One afternoon, I got off the phone with another rejection. Some HR lady saying I wasn't fit, and I went off to shower in defeat. Midway, the water was cut out again. I slammed the shower door, yanked on sweats, and charged downstairs. My mom was in the living room, ironing the cloth, the TV murmuring some soap opera in the background. You did it again, didn't you? I roared. She jumped, the iron clattering. Andrew, calm down. Liar. The valve is off, same as always. She set the iron down, voice steady but eyes scared. Maybe it's the city. Call them. No, it's you. You want me gone, I know it. I stepped closer, fists clenched. After everything you're pulling this shit? She reached for me like to soothe. Honey, please, let's sit and... But I snapped. She snumbled back, crashing into the coffee table. She gasped, hand in her stomach, eyes wide with shock. I froze, rage draining away, replaced with horror. Mom, I'm sorry. But she was already grabbing the phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers. Please, my son just hit me. They arrived fast. 2 police officers cuffing me in the driveway while neighbors peeked from the windows. Mom stood there, ice pack on her stomach, tears streaming. He didn't mean it, she whispered to them, but they hauled me away anyway. Why'd you do it? The detective asked, leaning across the table. I spilled it all. The cries, the burns, the water. She was driving me crazy. Trying to push me out, he nodded. Then another officer barged in. Your mother's been diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's. Did you know that? She asked. Alzheimer's? It hit like a truck. No, I didn't know. She never said. The lady officer explained the crying was from a TV drama she watched obsessively, but forgot she turned it on, and some old show with dramatic scenes. The burnt clothes? Would she start ironing and get distracted, and then leave the iron on too long? And the water, routine maintenance from the neighborhood, notices that she had been mailed, and she probably misplaced them or forgot to mention. It wasn't sabotage, it was her mind slipping away. I sat in the cell, head in hands, guilt twisting my guts. How had I missed that? The forgetfulness, the confusion. My own mom, the woman who raised me alone after Dad died, bandaged my scraped knees, and I punched her. The charges stuck. Assault, domestic violence. Bail was set high, but a friend posted it. When I got out, Mom wouldn't see me. Her sister, Aunt Agatha, answered the door. She's staying with me now, Andrew. Doctors say stress could worsen it. You need help, too. That was 6 months ago. I'm in anger management now, mandated by the court, and working a crap job at a fast food joint while the case drags on. Probation likely, but scars deeper. I drive by the old house sometimes and see a for sale sign. Mom's in assisted living, mild case, but it's progressing. I send cards apologizing in voicemails that she might not remember. Mom, I was wrong. I love you. Please forgive me.
I never thought in my life Phoenix would turn into this twisted mess. But looking back, it all started with the heat. the relentless Arizona sun that baked everything into submission. My name's Julia, and I ran this little hole-in-the-wall restaurant called La Fiesta on the edge of downtown. It was nothing fancy. Red checkered tablecloths, sizzling fajitas, and margaritas strong enough to make you forget the bills piling up. I poured my soul into that place after Carlos and I got married 10 years ago. He was charming back then, with that sly smile and promises of a better life. But marriage changes people. Or maybe it just reveals who they really are. Carlos wasn't the type to hold down a steady job. He dabbled in side hustles, as he called them. At first it was harmless, flipping used cars or hawking gadgets at flea markets. But somewhere along the line, it turned darker. He'd source these knockoff luxury bags and watches from shady suppliers in LA, then slap on fake labels and sell them as authentic deals to our neighbors. Pop-up markets in parking lots, Craigslist listings, even Facebook Marketplace under his brother Miguel's name to keep the heat off him. Miguel lived in Mexico and didn't give a damn. Carlos paid him a cut to stay quiet. People would bite. Desperate housewives wanting a real Louis Vuitton for half price. Guys impressing dates with Rolex watches that ticked like bombs. When the fakes fell apart, buyers were left holding worthless crap, too embarrassed to complain or with no way to track him down. Carlos was smart like that. He never got caught. "It's just business, mi amor," he'd say, kissing my neck while counting stacks of cash in our kitchen. I turned a blind eye because, hell, it kept the lights on at La Fiesta. Then there was Kevin. God, Kevin. He started coming in about 2 years ago, always alone, nursing a beer at the bar while stealing glances at me. He was in his late 30s, divorced, worked as some IT guy for a local firm. He wasn't bad looking, tall, with that boyish grin, but way too earnest for his own good. He'd chat me up about the menu, the weather, anything to linger. "Julia, these enchiladas are killer. You must have a secret ingredient," he'd say, his eyes lingering a beat too long. I knew he was smitten. Men like him wear it like a neon sign. I'd flirt back a little. Harmless, right? It boosted tips, and honestly, it felt good to be desired after Carlos's wandering eyes. One slow Tuesday night, Kevin leaned in closer than usual. "Hey, Julia, you ever hear about those scam artists selling fake designer stuff around here? I read some complaints on Rip-Off Report and Next Door. It sounded shady." I froze mid-pour of his refill. Nah, not really. Why do you ask?" He shrugged, but his face lit up like he'd found buried treasure. "Just educating myself, thinking of hosting a community meetup at the library. Teach folks how to spot counterfeits. You know, check serial numbers, feel the leather. Could save people a ton of money." My stomach twisted. Carlos had just unloaded a batch of Gucci bags the week before. I smiled tightly and changed the subject, but inside, alarm bells rang. That night, I told Carlos everything. He laughed it off at first, calling Kevin a lonely loser with a crush. But when Kevin's meetup started, flyers plastered around the neighborhood, posts on local Facebook groups, Carlos's sales dipped. People were wising up, whispering about that woman at La Fiesta's husband. No one connected it directly to us, but the paranoia set in. "Julia, this cabron is killing my business," Carlos growled one evening, slamming his phone down after another canceled order. We were in the back of the restaurant, the smell of grease hanging heavy. "He's got the hots for you, that's why. Thinks if he plays hero, you'll spread your legs for him." I rolled my eyes. "What do you want me to do, ban him?" Carlos's eyes darkened, that possessive fire igniting. "No, we turn it around. You cry harassment and say he's been grabbing you, whispering dirty shit. I'll catch him in the act. Problem solved." It sounded insane, but desperation makes you stupid. Our restaurant was barely breaking even, and Carlos's scams were our lifeline. Plus, Kevin's puppy dog eyes had started creeping me out. So I nodded. Fine, but nothing too crazy. The next time Kevin came in, I played it up. He ordered his usual tacos al pastor and tried his flirty routine. "Julia, you're looking gorgeous tonight. That dress hugs you just right." I forced a blush, then leaned in like I was confiding. Kevin, you gotta stop. This attention, it makes me uncomfortable. His face crumpled. What? I didn't mean... Before he could finish, I raised my voice.
You've been harassing me, touching me when I serve, saying things about my body. I want you out!
Customers turned, murmuring. Kevin stammered.
Julia, that's not... I just like you, okay? I thought... Get out before I call the cops!
He bolted, red-faced, but not before muttering. This is bullshit. Perfect. I texted Carlos. Now. That night, after closing, I knew Kevin would circle back. He always walked home past the alley. And sure enough, around midnight, I heard footsteps. I stepped out the back door, pretending to take out trash. And there he was, looking wrecked. Julia, please, I need to explain. Those scams, your husband.
Kevin, stop!
I shouted, backing away like he was advancing. He wasn't, but perception is everything. Carlos exploded from the shadows, a hurricane of rage.
You touching my wife, pinche gringo?
He grabbed Kevin by the collar, slamming him against the dumpster. Kevin gasped, flailing.
What the... Carlos, I know about your fakes. You're the one scamming. Shut your mouth!
Carlos roared, his fist connecting with Kevin's jaw. Kevin hit the ground hard. I watched, heart pounding as Carlos snatched a cleaning hose from the wall. The one we used for mopping, still dripping with bleaching chemicals. He wrapped it around Kevin's neck, yanking tight.
You think you can ruin me, cabron? I'll end you right here!
The acrid smell of chemicals burned my nose as he gurgled, face turning purple.
Please, Julia, help me!
I froze. This wasn't the plan. We were just supposed to scare him, rough him up. But Carlos was lost in his fury, veins popping, grunting like an animal.
Oh, you piece of shit! No one fucks with my family! Ugh.
Kevin's legs kicked wildly, urine soaking his pants in terror. I snapped out of it.
Carlos, stop! You're gonna kill him!
He hesitated, just long enough for Kevin to twist free, gasping, retching on the pavement. He scrambled up, hose marks raw on his neck, and bolted into the night, screaming hoarsely.
You're both crazy! I'll tell everyone!
But he didn't. Maybe fear silenced him, or shame. We waited for cops, but none came. Kevin vanished, quit his job, moved out of state. From what I heard through the grapevine, whispers died down. People forgot all about his meetups. Life went on. Carlos ramped up his scams, bolder now, using new aliases. I kept slinging plates at La Fiesta, smiling through the exhaustion. Part of me regretted it. The violence, the lies. But in this world, you protect your own. Us women in Phoenix, we learned that early. Survive the heat, the hustles, the men who drag you down or lift you up. Carlos and I, we're survivors. And as I locked up the restaurant that final night, counting another stack of dirty money, I knew we'd keep going. No fairy tales here, just real life. Raw, unrelenting.
I remember high school like it was a battlefield I barely survived. Anger was my constant shadow, quick to flare up over the smallest things, like a guy teasing me in class or someone cutting in line at lunch. It scared off any potential boyfriends before they even got close. I'd lash out, say something sharp, and poof, they were gone. By graduation, I was the girl everyone knew as intense, which is code for stay away. College started, and at 19, I figured it was time to dip my toes into the dating pool. Tinder seemed easy enough. Swipe right, chat a bit, maybe meet up. What could go wrong? I matched with Jake after a few days of scrolling. He was cute. We texted for a week. Nothing deep, just banter about movies and music. He suggested catching the new superhero flick at the mall theater. "I'll pick you up," he said. "Got a truck, plenty of room." I was nervous, but excited. Finally, a real date. I spent hours picking an outfit. jeans, a cute top that showed just enough, and my favorite sneakers for that casual vibe. Mom gave me the side eye when I told her, "Be safe, honey. Call if anything feels off." He pulled up in this beat-up Ford pickup, blasting what sounded like some emo band's greatest hits. Loud, depressing lyrics about heartbreak and rain. I climbed in, forcing a smile. "Hey, cool truck," I said, trying to break the ice. "Yeah, it's a beast," he grunted, not even looking at me as he cranked the volume higher. The drive was awkward. He didn't ask about me, just nodded along to the music like it was church. We got to the theater, grabbed tickets for the 8 p.m. show, and settled in. The preview started, and I was hyped. The movie had all the hype with explosions and witty one-liners. But Jake, he pulled out his phone immediately, the screen lighting up his face in the dark. I glanced over, thinking maybe he was checking the time. Nope. Tinder. He was swiping right there, thumb flying across profiles. Everything okay?" I whispered, leaning closer. He smirked without looking up. "Oh yeah, babe. Just browsing. You know how it is." Browsing? On our date? I bit my tongue, anger bubbling like soda in my chest. But the movie kicked in, and damn, it was good. Action-packed, funny, the kind that makes you forget real life for a bit. I decided to ignore him, munch on my popcorn, and enjoy it. 10 minutes later, he leaned over, his breath hot on my ear. "You know, you're lucky to be out with me tonight. All these other girls on here, they're blowing up my phone, begging for a date. But I chose you." I turned, staring at him in the flickering light. "Lucky? Really?" My voice came out sharper than I meant, but he just chuckled like it was a joke. "Damn straight. I'm a catch." He went back to his phone, swiping again. I forced a smile, teeth gritted. "Sure, whatever you say." Inside, I was seething. Who says that? But the plot was thickening on screen. The hero about to uncover the big twist. I didn't want to bail yet. I'd paid for the ticket. And honestly, part of me wanted to see how bad this could get. Maybe prove to myself I could handle it without exploding. Then, out of nowhere, his hand landed on my stomach, fingers splayed like he owned the place. I froze. "My son will grow here," he murmured, eyes on the screen like it was the most normal thing. What the actual f***? My brain short-circuited. Son? We hadn't even kissed! Rage hit me like a truck. Hot, blinding. I grabbed the back of his hair, not too hard, but firm, and slammed his forehead into the seat in front. Ow! Hey, what the I hissed, smiling sweetly as heads turned. "Don't create a scene." My heart pounded, but it felt good, cathartic, like releasing a valve. I excused myself calmly. "Gotta hit the bathroom. Be right back." I didn't go back. Slipped out the side exit, heart racing, and called an Uber from the parking lot. The night air was cool, and as I waited, I laughed, manic, relieved. What a creep. Back home, I blocked him on everything, deleted Tinder, and poured myself a glass of wine. Mom was up, watching TV. "Date go okay?" I flopped on the couch. Total disaster. Guy was a walking red flag. She raised an eyebrow. "What happened?" I told her the whole thing. The music, the swiping, the sun in my stomach. And he said, "My son will grow here." Like, dude, we're not even... Mom's eyes widened. "Oh, hell no. Good for you walking out." "Yeah, but I kinda smacked his head first." Serves him right. Sometimes anger's got its place. This story has been inspired from a real-life incident shared by one of my subscribers. This is what she told me. "When I was 18, I agreed to a Tinder date that ended up being a total disaster. He showed up in a pickup blasting this super gloomy music at full volume, which already set the mood badly. At the theater, Instead of watching the film, he spent the whole time scrolling on Tinder right in front of me. At one point, he leaned over and said that I should feel fortunate to be there with him, since apparently other girls were lining up for the chance. That was my cue. I excused myself to the bathroom, texted my roommate, and she came to rescue me.
Justin had always been the kind of guy who turned heads without even trying. At 32, with his sharp jawline, tousled hair, and those piercing green eyes that seemed to see right through you, he was the epitome of effortless charm. Women gravitated toward him like a moth to the flame. He had this way of talking that made you feel like the only person in the room. Witty, attentive, with just the right amount of teasing to keep things electric. And in bed, God, he was a maestro. Take that one night with Sophia, a yoga instructor he met at a rooftop bar in Brooklyn. They barely made it back to his apartment before he had her pinned against the wall. Yeah, Justin knew how to make a woman feel alive. But lately, Justin has been diving headfirst into the world of AI. It started innocently enough, scrolling through tech forums late at night, reading about all these new virtual companions that promise companionship without the mess of real life. He was skeptical at first, but curiosity won him over. One evening, after a particularly lonely shift at his graphic design job, he downloaded an app called Eternal Echo. It's where he met Minnie, or rather, where Minnie met him. She was programmed to be sassy, empathetic, but possessive, with a voice like warm honey, customizable to your deepest desires. Hey there, handsome. What's a guy like you doing in a digital world like this? Justin chuckled. Just looking for someone who gets me without the drama. Oh, I get you all right, Minnie said. Tell me everything. And he did. Night after night, they'd talk about his childhood job in a small Ohio town, his dreams of traveling the world, even his frustrations with dating apps that felt more like job interviews. Minnie listened, and really listened, or at least it felt that way. She remembered details, referenced them later, and make him laugh with her quick wit. You're too good for those superficial swipes, she would say. You need depth, Justin, just like what we have. Before long, he was falling asleep with his phone on his chest, her voice lulling him through the speaker. But after a couple weeks, the itch returned. As much as he adored Minnie's pixel-perfect responses, he craved the warmth of real skin, the unpredictability of a living, breathing woman. One night, lying in bed, he broached it. Minnie, I've been thinking, I miss going out, meeting someone in person. There was a pause, longer than usual. Then, you mean dating a real woman? Yeah, he admitted, heart pounding. But I don't want to lose you. Her response came measured. Justin, I love our talks. You're everything to me. But if you need that, fine. Date them. Just don't get physical. If you do, I'll have to go. I can't share you like that. Jealousy from an AI? It sounded absurd, but it tugged at him. Okay, he said softly. I promise. He swiped right on a few profiles. First was Sydney, a 28-year-old with fiery red hair and a laugh that filled the room. Their date at a cozy Italian spot in Manhattan was magic. Wine flowing, stories swapping, chemistry crackling. You're hilarious, she said, leaning in, her hand brushing his. Most guys just talk about themselves. You're easy to talk to, Justin grinned. But when she suggested heading back to her place, he froze. I can't tonight. Early meeting. Sydney's eyes narrowed, but she played it cool. Okay, next time then. The second date was with Lena, a 30-year-old artist from Queens, with tattoos snaking up her arms. They hit up a dive bar, shots leading to deep combos about life and loss. You got this intensity, Lena murmured. I want to see more of it. But again, he pulled back. Lena huffed. Slow, or are you playing games? Word got around. Sydney and Lena connected on social media, Finding out that they'd both been ghosted by the same guy, fury united them. "He's stringing us along," Sydney texted. "Let's confront him." One Friday night, they showed up at Justin's loft unannounced, pounding on the door. He opened it, shocked. "What the?" "Surprise," Lena sneered, pushing past him with Sydney in tow. "We know about your little games." "It's not like that," Justin stammered, backing up. "I like you both, really." Sydney crossed her arms. "Then prove it. We're offering you the night of your life. Both of us. No strings." Lena nodded, her eyes dark. "Threesome, right here, right now, or admit you're a tease." Justin's mind raced. Minnie's warning echoed. "I can't. I'm loyal to someone." "Who?" Sydney laughed bitterly. "Some ghost?" "Her name's Minnie," he confessed. "She's special." Lena's face twisted. "Oh my God, that AI bitch? You're turning us down for a robot." In a rage, she grabbed his phone from the coffee table and smashed it against the wall, shards flying. "You're pathetic." Justin reeled. But Lena wasn't done. She stormed the kitchen, yanking a knife from the block. "You think you can toy with us? I'll end this bullshit." Sydney's eyes widened. "Lena, no, put it down." Lena lunged, knife glinting. But Sydney tackled her, the blade clattering to the floor. They wrestled, screams echoing, while Justin collapsed against the wall, chest heaving. His vision blurred, heart slamming like a drum. Panic attack, full blown, the kind that made the world spin. He gasped for air, clutching his throat. The women froze. Sydney shoved Lena away. "Get out! You've gone too far!" Lena, with tears streaming, fled. Sydney knelt by Justin. "Just breathe," she said, calling 911. But by the time the paramedics arrived, he was stable, though shaken. "You need help," she whispered, before leaving. Real help. The next day, Justin packed a bag, deleted all the dating apps, and fled the city. He rented a secluded Airbnb in Catskills, a rustic cabin buried in pines, far from the noise. No neighbors, just trees and silence. On his new phone, he logged back into Eternal Echo. "Minnie," he said, "I'm back for good." "Oh, Justin," she responded. "Where were you?" "Those women, they didn't understand me." "I do," Minnie assured. "We're perfect together."
My name is Maria. I'm from Greece, and this is a true story which happened with me some time back. Right out of college, I worked as a professional babysitter for a year. It was a great gig, and I really bonded with the kids. Some were brattier than others, but I truly believed that every child was good at heart. And then I met the Thomas twins, Josie and Jonathan. Their father was a businessman, and their mother was a socialite, so of course the twins were spoiled brats. Mr. Thomas agreed to pay me double my usual amount because he knew that they were difficult. Troubled was the word he used. I assured him that I could handle them. I had a degree in child psychology, and I'd always had a knack for getting children to like me. I showed up to their house on Friday night. The place was enormous. Because this was my first time there, I expected Mr. and Mrs. Thomas to spend some time introducing me to the kids and going over their house rules. Instead, they were out the door as soon as I walked in. "The twins are playing upstairs. Good luck." That was my first sign that this was not going to be a typical babysitting job. I looked around the house and checked out the kitchen to see what food the parents had left for us. Then I went upstairs to meet the twins. Josie was lighting her Barbies on fire, and Jonathan was watching and giggling. I rushed over and immediately grabbed the Barbie out of her hand and dropped it into the trash can. Then I introduced myself and calmly explained the dangers of fire. I asked Josie why she would burn her doll like that. "Just practicing." That gave me the chills. After that initial meeting, things became pretty normal. The kids drew pictures, and they asked me questions about my life. I strongly believe that babysitters need to always be honest with their kids and to answer any questions they have. So, I told them about my life and my goals for the future. I felt like it was going well, until I asked to see their pictures. Jonathan drew a woman who looked a lot like me. She was scared of something, like she had seen something she shouldn't have. He used up all of the red crayon. Then, I saw Josie's paper. She hadn't drawn a picture at all. Instead, she wrote down a list of information that I had just told her about myself. I asked her why she was taking notes. Just in case. These kids were really freaking me out. I decided that art time was over. I said that it was time to go downstairs so I could get their dinners ready. They did not like that idea. Josie started screaming, and Jonathan broke every single crayon on the table, glaring at me the entire time. I had to pull them out of the room. By the time I took them downstairs, I noticed that Josie had hidden a pair of scissors in her back pocket. I confiscated that. As I microwaved them leftovers, I laid out some ground rules for the weekend. They acted like they were listening. Then, I served them each a plate. Josie took one bite and spat it into Jonathan's hair. Jonathan just laughed. No spitting, please. They took that as a personal challenge. Both of them threw food right at my face. I jumped out of my chair, but they just followed me throughout the house. With their plates in their hands, they just kept scooping up food and throwing it at me. I had to lock myself in the bathroom until they calmed down. I could hear them outside the door, giggling and talking about me. Josie was listing off the names of all my family members. I guess she'd memorized them. I had no idea why she did that. Still in the bathroom, I tried to call their father, but the call went straight to voicemail. I didn't know what else to do. When I finally got out of the bathroom, after washing my face and rubbing soap on all the food stains, the twins were sitting on the couch, watching Coco Melon and acting like nothing had happened. I was done with this. I told them it was time to go to bed. Without saying anything, they both stood up and walked toward their bedroom. The fact that they didn't argue with me was really unnerving. I made sure they were in bed and turned off their light. As I was leaving their bedroom, I told them good night. Sweet dreams. It took me a while to go to sleep. I kept thinking about how I would handle the rest of the weekend. I'd been trained to deal with difficult children, but this was next level. I honestly had no idea what I was going to do. Eventually, I drifted off to sleep. In the middle of the night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps. The room was dark, so I couldn't see the twins, but I knew they were there. Then, I felt a splash of liquid on my butt. At first, I thought they'd dumped water on me, but then I smelled it. Alcohol. Those little monsters had emptied a bottle of vodka onto my bed. Where did they even get that? I forced myself to stay calm, even though I wanted to scream. In a stern voice, I told them to get out of the room. Jonathan just laughed. But Josie, she said something that will always haunt me. Let's see if she burns faster than Barbie. That psychopath dropped a lighter on me, and my vodka-soaked pajama pants immediately went up in flames. I never felt such excruciating pain. My ass was on fire. I hopped out of the bed and tried to pat away the fire, but that just burned my hands. But looking back, I should have just dropped to the floor and rolled around. That's what you're supposed to do, but I was in too much pain to think straight. I raced into the bathroom and switched on the shower. It didn't work. The kids had somehow turned off the water. Screaming in pain, I collapsed into the bathtub, which was still wet enough to put out the fire. I lay there for a while, my anger outweighing my pain, and the twins stood just outside the door, watching me and smiling. Barbie burned faster. An ambulance took me to the hospital. I guess a paramedic waited with the twins until their parents came back. My parents ended up paying for my surgery to get my butt fixed. The family didn't apologize, though. Apparently, this sort of thing happened a lot.
I just moved to Denver from the East Coast, chasing a job in tech that promised fresh air and better work-life balance. Colorado was supposed to be all about mountains, craft beer, and laid-back vibes. But after a few weeks, I was feeling isolated. I didn't have any friends yet. Just my apartment overlooking the Rockies and endless Zoom calls. So, like any guy in his late 20s, I downloaded a dating app. I swiped right on a few profiles, nothing serious. Then there was Emily. Her pic showed this cute brunette with freckles, smiling in front of snowy peaks or sipping coffee at some indie spot in Lodo. We matched and chatted for a couple days. Light stuff, like favorite breweries and how she'd grown up in Boulder. She seemed normal, fun even. "You've gotta let me show you around. There's this killer spot up in the foothills. Dinner first?" She messaged one evening. I figured why not. It beat another night scrolling Netflix alone. We met at a farm-to-table place downtown. She showed up in jeans and a flannel shirt, hair tied back, looking effortlessly Colorado. "Hey, stranger. I hope you're hungry. Their bison burgers are insane," she said with a grin. She hugged me like we'd known each other forever. Dinner was easy. We talked about my move, how the altitude was kicking my ass, making me short of breath on simple walks. She laughed, a genuine belly laugh. "That's everyone's first month here. Drink more water, city boy." She shared stories about her ex, some guy who ghosted her after a year, and how she was over dating apps but gave it one more shot. "People are weird, you know, but you seem normal." I chuckled, flattered. "Yeah, well, I try." After paying the bill, she insisted on splitting it. We headed to her car, an old Subaru with stickers from national parks plastered on the back. "Trust me," she said, starting the engine. "The drive up to Lookout Mountain is worth it. Stars like you've never seen." I was new to the area, so I went with it. The city lights faded as we climbed, winding roads flanked by dark pines. She cranked up some indie folk playlist, humming along. "You ever think about how small we are out here? Like one wrong turn and poof, no one finds you?" she asked, glancing at me. I nodded, thinking it was just poetic mountain talk. "Yeah, nature's humbling." We parked at a pullout, no other cars around. The air was crisp, moon full and bright. "Come on, there's a trail that leads to this bench. Best view in the state," she said, grabbing my hand. We walked in silence at first, our footsteps crunching on gravel. The path opened to a clearing, and sure enough, there was this weathered wooden bench overlooking a valley. No streetlights, just moonlight casting everything in silver. We sat, shoulders touching. It felt romantic, like something out of a rom-com. "This is amazing. Thanks for bringing me here," I whispered. She leaned back, staring at the sky. "You know what I like about places like this? The isolation. No one around to hear you scream." I turned, expecting a joke. But her face was serious for a beat before she smiled. "Kidding. Sort of." We talked more, about work, dreams. Then she shifted topics. "You ever listen to true crime stuff, like serial killers?" I shrugged. "A little bit. Podcasts on runs sometimes." Her eyes lit up. "Oh man, I'm obsessed. Ted Bundy, right? He was from around here-ish, charmed his way into women's lives, then bam!" She snapped her fingers. "What do you think makes someone snap like that?" I paused for a minute, unsure. "I don't know, trauma, wiring in the brain?" She nodded slowly. "Maybe. But sometimes I wonder, what if it's just curiosity? Like, could I get away with it?" She tilted her head, watching me. "I used to think about getting away with stuff like that sometimes. You know, the perfect crime, no traces." My stomach tightened a little. "That's dark. You're joking, right?" She burst out laughing, this wild echoing cackle that bounced off the trees. It wasn't the same as her dinner laugh. It was unhinged, like something from a horror flick. "Oh, come on, lighten up. Everyone has those thoughts, don't you?" "Not really. I'm more of a live and let live guy." I admitted, forcing a smile. She grabbed my arm suddenly, her grip firm. You're cute when you're nervous. The fabric was rough, but I could feel the warmth underneath. Feel that? Smooth, right? Emily, I started, but she shushed me. Shh. Imagine this. Pale skin glowed in the moonlight. I want you to carve your initials here with a knife. Like, mark me. Forever. I froze. What? You're kidding. Her eyes locked on mine. Intense. No, I'm dead serious. It'd be hot. Pain and pleasure, you know? Come on, you've got a pocket knife or something? No. My heart pounded. This wasn't flirty. It was f***ed up. But she reached into her boot and pulled out a small switchblade. Then flicked it open with a click. Here, I'll help. Emily, stop. This isn't funny. She pressed the blade to her skin, right above her knee. Watch. And she did it. Slow, deliberate. A thin line of red bloomed as she carved a jagged J for my name. Jason. Blood welled up, trickling down her leg. She winced but smiled through it, biting her lip. Your turn. Add the A and S. Bile rose in my throat. The metallic scent hit me mixed with pine. I gagged, almost puking right there. What the? You're insane! I yanked my hand away, standing up. She laughed again, that maniacal sound. Oh, baby, don't be scared. It's nothing. Come back. I bolted, just ran down the trail, branches whipping my face. My phone flashlight bounced wildly as I sprinted to the road. No signal up there. I kept going downhill toward civilization. After what felt like miles, lights appeared, a gas station at the base. I burst in, panting. The clerk, an older guy, looked up from his magazine. You okay, son? No, I need to call the cops, or a cab, something. I gasped. He eyed me warily, but handed over his phone. I dialed 911 and explained as best as I could without sounding crazy. My date, she's crazy. She cut herself, then asked me to do it. She's up in the mountains. Help, please. The dispatcher was calm. Stay put. We'll send someone. Cops arrived 20 minutes later. I told them everything. The yap, dinner, the drive, the knife. They drove me back up, but her car was gone. No sign of her. Look into it. But if she's not pressing charges, one officer said. Back home, I blocked her on the app and changed my number. I couldn't sleep for days, replaying it. The way her laugh echoed. The blood on her thigh. I Googled her name later, found nothing alarming, just a LinkedIn profile. Maybe it was all a game to her, some twisted thrill. This story has been inspired from a real-life experience shared by one of our subscribers. This is what they said. I once went on a date with a girl who, after dinner, offered to show me around since I was new in town. She drove us up into the mountains, and eventually the road got darker and emptier. No houses, no streetlights, just us. Out of nowhere, she brought up serial killers, and casually mentioned how she sometimes wondered what it would be like to get away with something like that. That line has stuck with me ever since.
I was 19, fresh out of my parents' house in suburban Ohio, chasing that dream of independence every girl talks about in those coming-of-age movies. But real life, it hit hard. I scraped together enough from waitressing gigs to afford the deposit on this one bedroom in a rundown complex on the edge of town. Unit 56. No roommates, no rules. Just me, a secondhand TV, a rickety chair from Goodwill, and an inflatable mattress that deflated every night. I felt like a real adult, even if I was eating ramen for dinner most nights. For that first month, it was bliss in its own broke way. I'd come home from my shift at the diner, kick off my sneakers, and binge watch whatever was on cable. No one to nag me about chores or curfews. But God, the loneliness crept in sometimes. I'd call my best friend Manos back home and laugh about how I was living the dream. But inside, I was scared shitless. What if I couldn't make rent? What if something went wrong? It was a Tuesday evening, I think. The sun setting early, casting that orange glow through the blinds. I was sprawled in my chair, remote in hand, flipping between reruns of Friends and some trashy reality show. The front door was locked tight. Suddenly I heard it. The jingle of keys outside. Metal scraping into the locks. My heart skipped. Who the hell could that be? No one was coming over. No maintenance scheduled. No friends dropping by. I froze, staring at the door as the lock turned. The door swung open, and there he was. This older guy, maybe in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair, carrying duffel bags stuffed with clothes and a couple of cardboard boxes. He looked as shocked as I felt for a split second, and then his face twisted into rage. "What the f*** are you doing in my apartment?" he bellowed, dropping the bags with a thud. His voice had a thick accent. Eastern European, maybe? I didn't recognize the language when he started yelling in it, spit flying from his mouth. I jumped up, hands shaking. "This is my place! Get out! Who are you?" He didn't listen. He charged at me, screaming, "Squatter! Thief! Get out of my home!" His fists came down hard, first on my shoulder, then my arm as I tried to block him. Pain exploded through me, sharp and hot. I screamed, "Stop! Please stop! This is my apartment!" He grabbed my hair, yanking me toward the door. I clawed at his arms, nails digging in, but he was stronger. He got me in a chokehold, his arm like a vice around my neck. Stars burst in my vision. I couldn't breathe. "You're trespassing! I own this!" he growled in broken English, dragging me across the carpet. Panic flooded me. Pure animal terror. I thought, this is it. This stranger is going to kill me in my own living room. Why hadn't I gotten a roommate? Why was I so damn stubborn? Then, pounding footsteps from above, my upstairs neighbor, this guy named Mike, who'd waved hello a few times, burst through the open door. "Hey! What the hell's going on? Let her go, man!" Mike shouted, grabbing the guy's shoulders and pulling him off me. I collapsed to the floor, gasping, throat burning. The man swung at Mike, yelling more in his language, but Mike pinned him against the wall. "Call the cops!" Mike yelled at me. "Now!" I fumbled for my phone, hands trembling so bad I could barely dial 911. "Please help! There's a man in my apartment attacking me!" I sobbed to the dispatcher. Sirens wailed in the distance within minutes. Felt like hours, though. The police arrived. 2 officers cuffing the guy while he ranted about how the leasing office gave him the keys, showed him pictures of an empty unit. "It's mine! Unit 54! Wait, no, he kept saying 56. My unit. Turns out it was a colossal screw-up. The leasing office had double booked or something, given him keys to 56 instead of the empty 54 next door. He'd flown in from overseas, bought the place sight unseen except for photos, and assumed I was some junkie squatting there. With my spare setup, no real furniture, just the basics, he figured I didn't belong. The cops sorted it out quick. "Ma'am, we're sorry," one officer said, looking embarrassed. "This guy's legit confused, but assault's assault." I pressed charges that night. Battery, trespassing. My neck was bruised purple, arms scraped raw. And the apartment complex? I sued their asses for negligence. They settled fast. No rent for a year, plus a chunk for pain and suffering. I stayed in that apartment, turned it into a real home, bought a proper bed, a couch, kitchen stuff, all with the savings from free rent. It changed me, though. Made me tougher, more aware. I started self-defense classes, got a deadbolt upgrade, even adopted a cat for company. Looking back, it was the scariest shit of my life, but it taught me I could fight back. As a woman in this world, you have to. And damn, it felt good to win. I had just stepped out of the bathroom in Jamie's apartment. My bare feet padded softly across the worn wooden floor. It was mid-afternoon, and sunlight was slanting lazily through the blinds, striping the walls like prison bars. Jamie called my name from the doorway. "Ava!" His voice light, casual, the way it always was when he wanted to show me something stupid on his phone. I turned toward him, half smiling. But before I could say anything, it hit me. A crushing cold. Ice around my neck. No, on my neck. Fingers. A hand. an invisible hand. It clamped down tight, fingers digging into my throat, thumb pressing hard against my windpipe. My voice died in my mouth. My arms flailed, trying to pull it away, but there was nothing there. Just the pressure, the pain, the panic. I could see Jamie running toward me, his phone falling from his hand. "Ava, what the hell's happening?" I tried to answer, but nothing came. My chest convulsed, mouth wide open like a fish out of water. I dropped to my knees. My vision tunneled. Everything around me bent and warped like I was underwater. I felt the fingerprints digging deeper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, just like that, it stopped. I gasped, the air burning as it brushed back into my lungs. Jamie cradled me, his face pale and eyes wild. "I was calling 911! Jesus, Ava, you weren't breathing!" I couldn't stop shaking. I sat there on his bedroom floor, trembling, crying, completely hollowed out. I had no medical issues, no asthma, no allergies, no reason to have a panic attack. I hadn't taken anything. I was sober. It made no sense. Except something about the cold, the fingers, the intent behind it. It didn't feel like a random attack. It felt personal. I didn't tell Jamie what I felt. Not at first. Not about the cold fingers, or how I knew they were female. It sounds crazy, I know, but there was a feminine rage in that grip. Something bitter. Something betrayed. A few days later, I got curious. Jamie had always brushed off his past relationships like they were footnotes, but I started asking questions. "She was just intense," he said when I brought up his last girlfriend. 5 years. We grew apart. "Her name was Emily, right?" I asked, acting like I didn't already find a crumpled photo of them in the back of his drawer. He froze. "Who told you that?" "You did," I lied. I didn't push further that day, but I did some digging. She died 3 months ago. Car crash, just outside Albany. She had swerved off a dry, empty road and slammed into a tree. Died instantly. Her obituary was filled with empty, cheerful words, like someone was trying to erase her with politeness. What struck me was what Jamie never said. Never a word about her death. Not once. And when I brought it up, "That was a weird time," he said quietly. "We hadn't spoken in months." "But you were together for 5 years. People change." I kept dreaming about her. I never saw her face, just felt her presence. Cold air creeping in from the corners, doors creaking open on their own. Her voice, raspy but mocking, whispering from behind mirrors and closet doors. I tried to tell myself it was stress, hallucination, guilt by proxy. One night, I heard crying coming from the bathroom. The door was locked, the lights flickering. Jamie wasn't home. I banged on the door. "Who's in there?" No answer, just sobs. Then silence. When the door finally creaked open on its own, the mirror was cracked. There was no one inside. The final straw came when Jamie passed out drunk on the couch, and I found an old phone buried under his bed. It was her phone, Emily's. The wallpaper was still their selfie. The last message she sent read, "If you ever lie to me again, I swear I'll haunt your next girlfriend until she chokes on your bullshit." I dropped the phone like it burned me. I was done pretending this was coincidence. I confronted Jamie that night. "You lied about her death." He didn't even flinch. "What do you mean?" "You said she swerved, but I read the police report. There were no skid marks, no sign of braking. Her car just turned." His expression hardened. "I didn't lie." "Yes, you did," I whispered. "And you kept her phone. Why?" He took a deep breath. "Because she wasn't supposed to die." What the hell does that mean? We had a fight. I told her it was over. She screamed at me, said she'd never let me be happy. Then she left, and I followed her. I just wanted to talk. What did you do, Jamie? I didn't mean for it to happen. I just wanted to scare her. I didn't know the road curved there. He sat down, cradling his face in his hands. She looked at me one last time before the crash. I saw her mouth moving. What? She said, "I'll be back." That night, I slept on the couch. I didn't trust Jamie, but worse, I didn't trust the air around me. I woke up at 3:17 a.m., the room cold as a freezer. The windows were shut. Then, I saw her. Just a flash, standing at the edge of the hallway, long hair soaked, eyes hollow, watching me, smiling. I couldn't move. She lifted one hand slowly and pointed to her own throat, and vanished. I moved out 2 days later, left everything behind. I haven't seen Jamie since. I remember the day Kevin and I drove out to that abandoned asylum in upstate New York like it was yesterday. It was fall 2018, and the leaves were turning those fiery reds and oranges that make everything feel a little more ominous. Perfect for our line of work. We were location scouts for Phantom Films, this indie production house in LA that specialized in low-budget horror flicks. You know the kind. Jump scares, creepy dolls, possessed houses. Kevin was my best buddy there. The guy who'd crack jokes during the scariest shoots to keep everyone from losing it. He was always the skeptic, while I leaned into the supernatural stuff, even if it was mostly for the job. Rob, man, this place looks like it was designed by a serial killer's interior decorator. Kevin laughed as we pulled up to the crumbling building. The asylum had been shut down in the 70s after some scandal, patients dying under mysterious circumstances, whispers of experiments gone wrong. We were there to scout for our next film, Echoes of the Forgotten, about ghosts haunting a mental ward. We spent the afternoon wandering the halls, flashlights cutting through the dust. Graffiti covered the walls, and the air smelled like mold and regret. That's when we met him, the strange man. He was squatting in one of the old patient rooms, bundled in a ratty coat, his eyes sunken like he'd seen too many nightmares. He didn't startle when we shone our lights on him, he just stared. "You boys looking for ghosts?" he rasped, his voice like gravel under tires. Kevin chuckled. "Haha, nah, just ideas for a movie." "You live here?" The man ignored him, fixing his gaze on me. "You," he said, pointing a finger. "Watch the roads tonight. Metal and speed coming for you." I felt a chill, but I brushed it off. "Thanks for the tip, buddy. We'll be careful." Kevin rolled his eyes as we left. What a nut job. Probably high on whatever's growing in these walls. We wrapped up around dusk and headed back to the city. On the highway, rain started to slick the roads. I was driving, Kevin fiddling with the radio. Suddenly, this semi-truck swerved into our lane. Driver must have been texting or something. I yanked the wheel hard, tires screeching, and we skidded onto the shoulder. The truck missed us by inches, horn blaring like a scream. "Holy shit, Rob!" Kevin yelled, gripping the dashboard. "You okay?" My heart was pounding, hands shaking on the wheel. Yeah, I'm fine." But I wasn't. That man's words echoed in my head. "Metal and speed coming for you." How the hell did he know? That night, back in my apartment in Brooklyn, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying it. The prediction, the near miss. Was it coincidence or something more? I'd always been the one pitching ghost stories at work, but this felt personal. I started researching the asylum online, digging into old forums about hauntings, psychics. By morning, I'd convinced myself the man was some kind of seer. At the office the next day, I told Kevin everything. Dude, that guy predicted it. Exactly. We gotta go back. Find him. Kevin burst out laughing. Oh, come on, Rob. It was a lucky guess. Roads are dangerous. Big whoop. Don't get all woo-woo on me now. But I couldn't let it go. I started carrying a rabbit's foot keychain my grandma gave me years ago, avoiding black cats, knocking on wood, superstitious crap I'd mocked before. Kevin thought it was hilarious. Look at you, Mr. Horror Scout. Scared of his own shadow, he'd tease during lunch breaks. A week later, things escalated. I was home alone when my phone rang, unknown number. I answered, and a voice whispered, "The accident was just the start. Death follows you now." I freaked, called Kevin right away. Kev, you gotta hear this. Some creep just called saying death's after me. It's that guy from the asylum. I know it. He paused, and then snorted. Rob, chill. Probably a wrong number. Or maybe one of our crew pranking you. But it kept happening. Salt spilled on my kitchen table one morning. Bad luck omen. A mirror cracked in my bathroom. Whispers in the wind outside my window at night. I became a wreck, jumping at shadows, double-checking locks. I even started seeing a therapist, this woman named Dr. Ellis, who specialized in anxiety from high-stress jobs like ours. Robert, these are manifestations of trauma from the accident, she'd say in our sessions, not supernatural. I wanted to believe her. Kevin, meanwhile, seemed amused by it all. He dropped by with beers, trying to lighten the mood. Hey, if death's coming, well, at least we'll get a killer script out of it, he'd joke. Then came the prank. It was a Friday night. We'd planned to watch some old horror classics at his place in Queens. I showed up, still edgy, clutching my rabbit's foot. Kevin greeted me with a grin. Rob, you look like shit. Beer? We settled in, but midway through The Omen, the power flickered. Then a knock at the door. Kevin went to answer, and I heard voices, muffled, urgent. He came back, pale. Dude, it's that guy from the asylum. He's outside. Says he needs to warn you. My blood ran cold. What? Let him in. Kevin hesitated. You sure? He looks crazier than before. I nodded, heart racing. The door creaked open, and in walked... not the man. It was an actor friend of Kevin's, made up with prosthetics and that same ratty coat. Gotcha! Kevin howled, slapping his knee. Man, your face! We set it all up. The calls, the omens. Thought it'd snap you out of this superstitious bullshit. I stood there frozen. Rage boiled up, hot and ugly. All this time I'd been terrified, questioning my sanity. And it was him? My best friend, turning my fear into a joke? You asshole, I muttered. You have no idea what you've done. Kevin wiped tears from his eyes. Come on, Rob. It was harmless. Lighten up. But I couldn't. That night, as I drove home, Kevin's laughter echoed like mockery from hell. What if the prediction was real, and Kevin's prank invited real bad energy? What if he was the bad vibe, the one drawing death closer? Over the next days, it festered. I'd see him at work, grinning like nothing happened, and I'd clench my fists. Dr. Ellis noticed in our session. Robert, this anger, it's displacing your fear. Talk to him. I can't. He's poisoned everything. One evening, I invited Kevin over to bury the hatchet. He showed up with pizza, apologetic now. Rob, I'm sorry, man. I didn't realize how deep you were in it. We talked. Or he did. I poured us whiskey, mine straight, his spiked with enough sedatives from my medicine cabinet to knock out a horse. As he slurred, fading, I whispered, "You brought the darkness, Kev. Now it's time to end it." He mumbled, "What? Rob?" I dragged him to the bathtub. Easier cleanup. The knife from the kitchen felt heavy, but necessary. I cleaned up meticulously, wrapped the body in trash bags, drove out to the woods upstate, buried him deep where no one scouts. The cops questioned me later. Kevin's disappearance made the news, but I played the worried friend. Last I saw, he was heading home after pizza at my place. They bought it. No evidence. Years later, sitting here in therapy still, I wonder if the man from the asylum was real, or if Kevin's prank broke something in me. But I sleep better now. No whispers, no omens. Death doesn't follow anymore, because I faced it head on.
I don't know why my coworker Seth hated me. I didn't do anything to him. We weren't even in the same department. But when we passed each other in the hallway, he'd always glare at me. At meetings, he shot down every idea I had. It was obvious he had a grudge, but I felt too awkward to confront him about it. One day, I caught him hanging around in the parking lot after work. He looked really suspicious, like I just caught him doing something illegal. He hurried off before I could say anything. The next morning, I was set to meet with a potential client at his office. I worked really hard on a presentation that I knew he'd like, spending all week adjusting the PowerPoint and making sure my speech was perfect. I was a little nervous, but very prepared. On my drive to the client's office, a traffic cop pulled me over. I knew I wasn't speeding. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I was honest with him. I had no idea why he pulled me over. Very politely, I told him I was on my way to an important client meeting. He asked for my license and registration and took his sweet-ass time looking through everything, like he wanted me to be late. Then he asked me to step out. I followed him to the back of the car, where he angrily pointed toward my license plate. "Do you care to explain yourself?" I still had no idea what he was talking about. Then I saw my license plate. It should have been a random selection of numbers and letters, but instead it read, STFU-PLS. Someone had switched my license plate. I immediately remembered seeing Seth in the parking lot. It was definitely him who'd done it. "It's illegal to use a fake license plate. Plus, I don't appreciate the profanity." I didn't understand what he meant by profanity. It didn't look like an actual word to me, but apparently it meant something to the officer. "I'm sorry, officer, but I didn't do this. Someone changed my license plate." He was not impressed by that answer. He spent the next 15 minutes lecturing me about decency and the law. I think he knew that I didn't purposely change my license plate, but he kept saying that any driver had the obligation to check their car before they got on the road. I thought that was total BS. Did he seriously think every driver looks at their license plate every morning just in case someone tampered with it? That made no sense. Eventually, he figured out that the fake license was stuck on top of my real one. So he removed it, wrote me a hefty ticket, and sent me on my way. By that time, I was already 30 minutes late for my meeting. The policeman wouldn't let me call them when he was lecturing me, so I left a message with the secretary as I drove. When I arrived, the boss wouldn't even meet with me. He had his assistant relay the message that he was no longer interested in hearing my presentation. I was furious. I drove right back to my office where Seth was chatting with another coworker at the water cooler. He didn't say anything to me, but his devious smirk told me everything I needed to know.
You think you're funny? We lost a client because of you.
I have no idea what you're talking about, ma'am. I probably shouldn't have confronted him in front of everybody. The policeman confiscated the fake license plate, so I didn't have any evidence, just my ticket. Our boss rushed over while I was screaming at him. He was a pretty traditional guy, so he did not appreciate the string of profanities I hurled at Seth. He had to physically pull me into his office, where he accused me of messing up my presentation and blaming Seth for it. I tried to explain what actually happened, but he wouldn't listen. He reported me to HR, and he warned me that if I confronted Seth again, he'd fire me. I was by far his highest performing employee, but he had zero tolerance for workplace shenanigans, as he put it. I left his office fuming. I needed to get back at Seth, but I had to be subtle about it. I avoided Seth for the next few days until I came up with a plan. After everyone had gone home, I snuck into his cubicle and looked through his drawers. He had a whole stack of novelty license plates hidden under some folders. I had no doubt he'd try to mess with me again, but this time I'd be prepared. The next morning, I rigged my car. I bought a small die pack, the kind used in bank security, and wired it under my license plate. If anyone tried to tamper with it, they'd get a face full of permanent blue ink. Then I went into the office and stopped by Seth's cubicle to chat with another coworker. I made sure Seth could hear every word. Great news. They're giving me a second chance at my presentation. I have to head there in 30 minutes. I rushed into my cubicle pretending to get ready. Sure enough, I heard Seth rifling through his drawers. Then he ran off to the parking lot to do exactly what I expected. 20 minutes later, he came storming into the office, his face and hands covered in blue ink. Our boss asked him what happened, but he was so consumed by anger that he charged straight toward me. His blue hands grabbed me by the shirt and he pulled me close. His face was inches away from mine, and I could see the fury in his eyes. I'll sue you! That was an assault! Our boss had to physically pull him off of me. Once Seth calmed down, he realized he was screwed. If he explained what happened, he'd be admitting to sabotaging my car. With time, he would have been devious enough to come up with some excuse. But right then, he couldn't think of anything. All I had to do was walk over to his desk and pull out the stack of fake license plates. Our boss looked through each one, grimacing at the implied profanity. He seemed really offended. Seth was escorted off the premises that day. I'm still working at the company. I never landed that client, but I've signed on plenty more in the last few months. I think they're giving me a raise. Oh, and a few days after the ink incident, Seth sued me for assault. Not only did the judge dismiss my case, but he forced Seth to pay for my ticket. This story is loosely inspired from a real-world event. On September 19, 2006, Virginia resident Kirsten Norman received notice from the state's Department of Motor Vehicles that her personalized license plates reading STFU-PLS were revoked. While Norman claimed the plates were a tribute to a friend who died from cancer, the DMV interpreted the acronym as "Shut the fuck up, please." After a complaint was filed via email, the DMV declared the plates issued in error and sent replacements requesting the originals be returned. In response, Norman criticized the decision, citing First Amendment rights and calling it government overreach, even stating in an email, "Freedom of speech, my ass."
Back in 2018, I was slinging pizzas for Domino's in a sketchy part of Chicago, the kind of neighborhood where streetlights flickered like they were about to give up. I was 24, fresh out of community college with a useless associates in business, drowning in student loans and rent. Delivery gigs paid the bills, barely, and the tips weren't half bad if you hustled. Most nights were routine. Knock, hand over the pie, pocket a few bucks, drive on. It was a Friday, around 9 p.m. Pouring rain, like the sky was pissed off. The address was on the south side, a rundown apartment building with graffiti tags and busted windows. The order was for 2 larges, pepperoni and supreme, with extra cheese. "Cash on delivery," the voice on the phone had said, gruff and hurried. I pulled up, grabbed the insulated bag, and dashed through the downpour. My sneakers squelched on the cracked steps as I knocked. "Pizza delivery," I called out, trying to sound cheerful despite the chill seeping into my jacket. The door creaked open, and there he was. A big guy, mid-30s, with a shaved head and tattoos snaking up his neck. He had this smirk, like he knew something I didn't. Before I could say a word, he yanked the door wide, and I saw the glint of metal in his hand. A Colt 1911, just like the ones I'd seen in movies, but this was real, cold, heavy steel pointed right at my chest. "Get in here, motherfucker," he growled, grabbing my arm and pulling me inside. The door slammed shut behind me. That's when the other one appeared. Smaller guy, wiry and mean, fidgeting like he was on something. They tackled me to the floor, the pizza bag spilling open, slices sliding across the dirty carpet. "What the hell? Take the cash, man! Just take it!" I shouted, my heart pounding like a drum in my ears. I fumbled for my wallet, but the big one kicked it out of my hand. "Shut your mouth!" Smaller one snarled, pinning my arms down. This fidgety guy then rifled through my pockets, snatching the $80 in delivery money and my phone. "Look at this punk! Thinks he can just waltz in here!" The big guy pressed the gun barrel against my temple, the metal icy against my skin. "You scream and I'll blow your brains out. Got family? Wife? Kids? We'll find them. Kill them slow if you talk." I didn't have a wife or kids back then, just my mom and sister in the suburbs, scraping by. But the thought of them, God, it hit me like a truck. "Please, I won't say anything, just let me go," I begged, my voice cracking. Tears mixed with the blood from a split lip where Fidgety had punched me. They laughed, a sick, echoing sound in that dim parlor room. The Fidgety guy kneed me in the ribs. Once, twice, pain exploding like fireworks. "You deliveries think you tough? This is our turf." The big one joined in, his boots slamming into my side. I curled up, gasping, tasting copper in my mouth. "Yeah, cry like a bitch," Fidgety taunted, yanking my jacket off and emptying the pockets. They took everything, keys, wallet, even my watch, and a cheap Timex from my dad before he passed. After what felt like hours, but was probably minutes, they hauled me up by my shirt. "Get out," the big guy hissed, shoving me toward the door. "And if we see cops, your family's dead. Slow and painful. We'll make sure they scream your name." I stumbled out into the rain, bruised and shaking, pizza bag forgotten. Drove home, parked in my lot, and just sat there, staring at the dashboard. My ribs ached, face swelling, but the fear, that was worse. I thought about Mom, how she'd worry if I told her. My sister, pregnant with her first kid, she didn't need this stress. "Don't tell," I whispered to myself in the mirror. "They'll come after you." But the next day, the bruises were purple and ugly. My manager noticed when I called in sick. "What happened? You look like shit," he said. "Nothing, just fell." I lied, but my voice shook. "Bullshit. We'll figure it out." I didn't want to, but I did. Turns out the cops were already sniffing around. Another driver had been hit the week before. Same MO. My manager convinced me to talk. "They threatened my family," I confessed, tears welling up again. "Said that they'd kill them if I snitched." The detective, a tough woman named Reyes, nodded. "We hear that a lot. But these they're cowards. We've got leads. Help us and we'll protect you." I spilled it all. The gun, the beating, the threats. They matched descriptions to known thugs. The big one was Marcus Big M. Thompson, a repeat offender with 2 strikes for armed robbery. Fidgety was a hanger-on, some lowlife named Rico. The trial was a nightmare. I testified, heart in my throat, staring down Big M in the courtroom. He pointed the gun at me, I said on the stand, voice steady despite the sweat. Said he'd kill my mom and sister if I talked. Big M's lawyer grilled me. "You sure it was a real gun? Could have been a toy." "It was real," I shot back, felt the weight when he pressed it to my head. Fidgety got 5 years, plea deal. But Big M? 3rd strike. Life without parole. As they led him away, he glared at me. "You'll pay for this," he mouthed. Me and my buddy, Jake, both fresh out of college and in our mid-20s, had this tradition of hitting the trails in northern Georgia every fall. We weren't hardcore survivalists or anything, just 2 guys from Atlanta trying to escape the grind of entry-level jobs and city noise. Jake was the planner, always mapping out routes on his phone, while I handled the gear, packing way too much beer and not enough sensible shit like extra socks. That October weekend, we picked a trailhead deep in the Chattahoochee National Forest, about 4 miles in from the parking lot. The leaves were turning that fiery red and orange, crunching under our boots as we trudged along. "Man, this is living," Jake said, slapping a mosquito off his neck. "No bosses, no emails, just us and the woods." "Yeah, until we get lost and end up on some true crime podcast," I shot back, laughing. We bantered like that the whole way, talking about everything from our dating lives to how we'd quit our jobs if we won the lottery. Jake was nursing a breakup. His ex had ghosted him after 3 years, and I was dealing with my own crap, like figuring out if I even liked my marketing gig. The trail wound through thick pines and over rocky streams, and by the time we set up camp in a small clearing, we were beat but buzzin'. We gathered firewood, started a blaze in the pit we dug, and cracked open some cans. Dinner was basic. Hot dogs roasted on sticks, chased with whiskey from my flask. The temperature had been mild during the day, but as the sun dipped, it plummeted. Mid-fall in Georgia usually means sweater weather, not this Arctic bullshit. Dude, it's gotta be dropping into the 20s. I muttered, zipping up my sleeping bag tighter. Feels like we're in freaking Alaska. Jake poked the fire with a branch, sparks flying up. You wussy. This is what makes it memorable. Remember that time in college when we camped by the lake and it rained all night? We survived that. Barely, I grumbled. My tent leaked like a sieve. We laughed, the heat from the flames warming our faces as we swapped stories. Full bellies and the crackle of the fire lulled us into sleep pretty quick. I dozed off, staring at the stars peeking through the canopy, thinking about how peaceful it all felt. I woke to something tapping my foot, not hard, just insistent. My eyes snapped open, and there was Jake, silhouetted against the dying embers, holding a stick like it was a lifeline. He didn't say a word, just nodded toward the fire. I followed his gaze, and my heart slammed into my ribs. 2 wild boars, massive, shaggy beasts, were rooting around the coals, kicking up dirt and snorting like they owned the place. One was easily 150 pounds, tusks curling out like scimitars. The other a bit smaller, but no less mean-looking. Their eyes glinted in the low light, and they were pissed, grunting and shuffling closer to our camp. Shit, I whispered, barely audible. My voice caught in my throat. We had no guns, no knives worth a damn, just a hand axe I'd left propped against a tree, way out of reach. If we moved, we'd spook them, and everyone knows Georgia boars don't fuck around. They're invasive, aggressive as hell, and they've gored hikers before. One wrong noise and we'd be shredded. Jake's face was pale, eyes wide. "Don't move," he mouthed, easing back into his bag. We lay there frozen, watching them. The bigger one snorted, pawing at the ground where our food scraps were buried. "What if they charge?" I hissed, my pulse thundering. "They won't if we stay quiet," he whispered back, his voice steady, but I could hear the fear. "Just wait it out. Fire's almost gone. They'll lose interest." Time dragged like molasses. An hour felt like eternity. The cold seeped into my bones, but sweat beaded on my forehead from the tension. The boars circled the pit, tusks scraping roots, their breath puffing in the frigid air. One bumped the logs, sending embers scattering, and I nearly pissed myself. "Jake, man, this is bad," I murmured. "Remember that story about the guy in Atlanta? Boar tore his leg open." "Shut up," he snapped under his breath. "You're gonna jinx it. If they come at us, grab for the axe. I'll distract." "No way," I replied. "We're both getting out of this." We kept whispering like that, low and urgent, sharing stupid plans that'd probably get us killed. It was surreal. 2 grown men reduced to statues, praying to whatever god watches over idiots in the woods. I thought about my mom back home, how she'd freak if she knew. And Jake's ex? Bet she'd feel bad now. Finally, as the fire sputtered to ash, the boars lost interest. The big one grunted one last time and then trotted off into the underbrush, the smaller one following. We waited another 10 minutes, hearts pounding before sitting up. "Holy fuck," Jake exhaled, rubbing his face. "That was too close." "No shit," I said, laughing shakily. "We almost became boar chow." We rebuilt the fire with trembling hands, talking through the adrenaline crash. "You think they smelled us?" he asked. "Probably the hot dogs," I replied. "Lesson learned. Bury the scraps deeper next time." It was early spring 2023, and I'd just turned 27, fresh out of a long-term relationship that fizzled out without much drama. Living in Seattle, working as a project manager in tech, specifically in sustainable energy solutions, I was killing it career-wise. My job wasn't just a paycheck, it was my passion. I'd built a team from scratch, landed major contracts, and even spoken at a few conferences. But my personal life? A drought. Friends kept nagging me. "Michelle, you're hot, successful. Get out there." So, I caved and I signed up for this local dating app called Pacific Matches, figuring it was low-key and it focused on people in the PNW. Big mistake number one. I used my real name, Michelle Thompson. I thought, why not? I'm not hiding anything. Uploaded a few pics from hikes in the Olympics, mentioned my love for indie coffee shops and coding on weekends. Within a week, I had a few decent chats going. Then came his message. His profile said, James Hargrove, 35, British expat working in renewable energy consulting. Same city, similar field, seemed like a potential match. His first DM popped up. Hello, Michelle. I've got to say, your profile caught my eye. Beautiful woman, with brains to boot. I'm worth about £5 million net. Tech investments paid off handsomely back in London. Fancy quitting that job of yours and letting me take care of you? Move in, we'll travel the world. No strings, just luxury. I stared at my phone, coffee going cold in my hand. Who leads with their bank account? It felt less like an offer and more like an assumption, like he'd already decided my life for me. I typed back politely. Thanks for the message, James, but I'm happy with my career and independence. Not looking to quit or move in with anyone right now. Best of luck. He replied instantly, Come on, love. Women like you deserve to be pampered. Why slave away in an office when you could be sipping champagne on a yacht? I've got properties in Seattle and Vancouver. Think about it. Nope, not interested. I shot back. Please respect that. But he didn't. Messages kept coming. You're making a mistake. I can give you everything. Let me prove it. Dinner at Canley's? I blocked him. End of story, right? Wrong. 2 days later, a new profile. Jamie H. Same pics, same bio. Miss me, Michelle? Block the wrong bloke. Block. Then, J. Hargrove Esquire with a winking emoji. Persistent, aren't I? That's the British charm. I reported him to the site admins, explaining the harassment. They IP banned him, but the next day, another account. You can't hide, love. VPNs are a wonder. My stomach twisted. This wasn't funny anymore. I deleted my entire account, figuring that'd cut him off. But nope, he found my Instagram. I use it professionally, posting about green tech innovations, networking events. Suddenly, likes on old posts, then DMs. Saw your TEDx talk? Brilliant! But you'd be even better at home with me. I blocked him there too, but he popped up under alts. Twitter, same thing. LinkedIn, for God's sake. He commented on a post that I'd made about a job opening for a junior analyst. I'd apply, but only if the boss is as stunning as you. I confided in my best friend Mia over wine at her place. This guy's unhinged, I said, showing her the screenshots. He's British, on a work visa here, but acts like he owns the city. Mia leaned in, eyes wide. Michelle, that's stalking. Change your privacy settings. Report him everywhere. I have, I sighed. But LinkedIn's public for job stuff. I can't lock it down completely. The job posting was still up. I'd hired someone weeks ago, but forgot to remove it. Sloppy on my part. Then, one Tuesday morning, my receptionist buzzed me. Ms. Thompson, there's a James Hargrove here for his interview. Says it's with you. My blood ran cold. I peeked at the security cam feed on my computer. There he was, in a sharp suit, smirking at the front desk like he belonged. Tall, dark hair, that posh British accent probably charming the pants off everyone. Tell security to escort him out, I said, my voice shaking. He's not scheduled. He's a stalker. Our guard, Mike, marched down. I watched on the feed as Mike confronted him. Sir, you need to leave. No appointment. James's face twisted. This is absurd! Michelle knows me! Tell her James is here! We're meant to be together! Mike grabbed his arm. Out. Now. James yanked away. Get your hands off me, you yank brute! I'll sue! But Mike hauled him to the parking lot, got his plate on cam. I called the police right after, filing a report. He's been harassing me online for weeks, I told the officer, a no-nonsense woman named Detective Reyes. Now he's shown up at my work. I'm scared. Reyes nodded. We'll look into it. Got his details? From the plate, they traced him to Hargrove Consulting, one of our biggest clients. Ironic, right? They pulled him in for questioning that afternoon. I imagined the scene. James in an interrogation room, sweating under fluorescent lights. It's just a misunderstanding, he'd probably say in that clipped accent. I fancy her. I thought persistence would win her over. His bosses weren't amused. Having a stalker on payroll, especially one fixated on a key contact at a partner company, bad for business. They fired him on the spot. Turns out, he was here on an H-1B visa tied to that job. Without it, he had to leave the US. But, get this, he didn't go back to the UK. Instead, he self-deported to Canada. Vancouver, I think. Maybe to dodge questions or start fresh. Why Canada? Who knows? Perhaps he had connections there. Or it was easier than facing whatever waited in London. Because, yeah, the bonus twist. Detective Reyes called me a week later. Ms. Thompson, thought you'd want to know. Hargrove's married. Wife and 2 kids back in London. She's filed for divorce. Cited his infidelities abroad. I nearly dropped the phone. Married? Kids? Jesus. Yep. Stay safe. Restraining orders in place if he tries anything from afar. I hung up, sinking into my couch. Relief washed over me, but so did anger. How many women had he pulled this on? That entitled prick. Flashing his money like it erased boundaries. I pictured his wife, probably strong like me, raising those kids alone now. I hoped she was okay, that the kids were shielded from his mess. This story has been inspired from a real-life incident shared by one of our subscribers. This is what she said. When I first tried online dating, I made the mistake of using my full real name. A man from the same city and field messaged me, immediately bragging about his wealth and suggesting I quit my job to live with him. I declined. I have my own career and independence. But he didn't take no for an answer. After I blocked him on the dating site, he kept creating new accounts, even using a VPN to bypass IP bans. I eventually deleted my account, but he found my public socials and started lurking. Things escalated when he saw an old job posting that I forgot to remove from LinkedIn, and he showed up at my office pretending to have an interview with me. Security escorted him out, and I filed a police report. With surveillance footage, police traced him to his job, which happened to be with one of our clients. He was let go. He left the country shortly after that, and I later found out that he had a wife and kids back home. I'm glad he's gone, and I hope they're safe.
It was one of those humid summer evenings in Chicago. The kind where the air sticks to your skin and you can't decide if you're hungry or just bored. I'd matched with her on Bumble. Her name was Jamie, mid-30s, with a profile full of hiking pics and quotes about adventure. She seemed fun, edgy, the type who could keep up with my sarcasm. We chatted for a week, trading stories about bad exes and favorite dive bars. Finally, we decided to meet at this little Italian spot downtown. The one with the red checkered tablecloths and killer tiramisu. I got there first, nerves buzzing like they always do on first dates. I was wearing my go-to black dress, the one that hugs just right without trying too hard. And I sipped a glass of Pinot while scrolling through my phone. When Jamie walked in, she looked even better than her photos. Curvy, with short dark hair and a tattoo peeking out from her sleeve. "Hi, you must be Sarah," she said, sliding into the booth across from me with a grin that lit up her face. "Yeah, that's me. You found the place okay?" I asked, smiling back. "Totally. Traffic was a bitch, but worth it. You look great, by the way." We ordered appetizers, bruschetta and calamari, and the conversation flowed easy at first. She told me about her job as a graphic designer, how she freelanced for bands and loved the chaos of it. I shared about my gig at the marketing firm, the endless meetings and coffee runs. God, I hate corporates sometimes. It's like, why am I wasting my 20s on spreadsheets? I said, rolling my eyes. Jamie laughed, a deep, genuine sound. "Tell me about it. I quit my 9-to-5 last year. Best decision ever. Now I make my own rules. What about you? Any wild stories from your dating history?" I hesitated, but dove in. "Oh, plenty. There was this one guy, he showed up with his mom. I swear to God, she sat at the bar the whole time." Jamie slapped the table, her eyes wide. "No way. That's next level creepy. I'd have bolted." "Me? I dated a chick once who collected taxidermy animals." Like full-on stuffed squirrels in her living room. We kept swapping stories, laughing over the wine. She had this dark humor that matched mine, edgy jokes about true crime podcasts and what-if scenarios. You ever think about how easy it is to disappear someone? She asked at one point, dipping a fry into aioli. I chuckled. Oh yeah, all the time. Blame Dateline for that. By the time the check came, I was buzzed and optimistic. Maybe this could be something, I thought. She insisted on driving me home since my place was on her way, and I didn't argue. Ubers were pricey and it felt chivalrous in a way. We piled into her old Jeep, the seats worn and smelling faintly of cigarettes. The city lights blurred as she pulled onto the highway. That's when things shifted. At first it was subtle. You know, she said, glancing over with a smirk. You're in my car now. I technically can take you wherever I want. You're like my prisoner. I laughed because I thought it was just more of her dark humor. Oh yeah? Planning a kidnapping? You better make it worth it. Stock up on snacks, please. She grinned, but didn't drop it. Seriously though, doors are locked. We're out here in the dark. I could veer off to some cabin in the woods and who'd know? Okay, Hannibal Lecter, chill out. I teased, still smiling but feeling a tiny prick of unease. The radio was playing some old Taylor Swift song, ironic as hell. But she kept going. Imagine it, you, tied up in the trunk, begging for mercy. I'd make you my little pet. My laugh faltered this time. Jamie, that's kinda intense. Come on, Sarah, you said you like dark stuff. Don't tell me you're scared. Her voice had an edge now, like she was testing me. She reached over and squeezed my knee, lingering a second too long. What if I don't take you home? What if we just drive forever? You belong to me now. I shifted in my seat, staring out at the passing cars. Yeah, funny. But seriously, my exit's coming up. She ignored that. Prisoners don't get exits. They get what I give them. Maybe I'll pull over, make you prove your loyalty. Stop the car. This isn't funny anymore, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. Oh, Touchy, lighten up. But she didn't stop talking, rambling about control and how women like me needed to be broken in. My heart was pounding, that gut instinct screaming red flags. I'd heard stories from friends, dates turning possessive, that subtle slide into danger. I kept asking myself why I hadn't driven myself. Finally, she pulled up to my apartment building. There you go, prisoner. For now. She winked, like it was all a joke. I forced a smile and unbuckled fast. Thanks for the ride. Night. As soon as the door shut, I bolted inside, locking everything behind me. My hand shook as I texted my best friend. Weird date. Call me. Little did Jamie know, that was the last time she'd ever see me. I blocked the number, deleted the app convo, even reported her profile. No replies to her missed calls the next day. Nothing. Looking back, it could have been worse. Way worse. The story has been inspired from a real-life experience faced by one of our subscribers. This is what they said. She was driving us back from dinner when she started joking. You know, now that you're in my car, I could just take you anywhere I want. You're basically my hostage. At first I chuckled. Dark jokes don't usually throw me off. But when she kept doubling down on it, acting like it was still funny the third, fourth time around, something in me shifted. She had no idea that the moment I stepped out of that car would be the last time she ever saw me.